On today's episode of Let's Talk FGO, more My Little Dragon banners, we're announcing Valentines already, and even more further beyond thoughts about Lostbelt 7 Part 2. Hello, I am one of your hosts. The one speaking to you right now is Omega. The other one who will speak shortly is Lucky.
We're just going straightforward today. Anyways, I hope everyone is enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka the gentle scent of cacao. And while we here at Studio Omega like to bring you the latest FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about current and future events for both the JP and the Indian version of the game, so anyone not wanting spoilers should prepare to face oblivion, and what's beyond it.
Yes, and as always, we are doubling down on the spoiler warning. We'll let you know when you want to get out of here, but we're continuing Lostbelt 7 Part 2. We're not doing all of it yet. Lucky is not done, and even if he was done, he definitely wouldn't have the notes all in order, because there's a part of this that's, like, physically really long. Well, that'll probably be next week when I talk about my experience with that, but yeah, there's some physical lost time involved, and also you have to plug in your phone occasionally. That's a thing you have to do, chat. So yeah, I don't have any funny intros today. We're just going right into it.
I don't know if I'd be necessarily that much further today, but at one point my phone did freak out and nearly tried to burn itself alive. Like, chew through its batteries and hella overheated, so I had to be like, no, and just, put it away for a while.
Is the section after I'd have to double check in my notes if the section after the one you finished has any real fights. There's a little bit of goofus in there. It's mostly exposition, though.
Well, that's its own problem, because I have to type all that out.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is what I mean. It's like I said, even if you were, like, done with the stuff, you'd be, like, having to do more stuff. You have to write it all out. So, this episode will be plenty long, don't you worry. Anyway, our beautiful, wonderful, long episodes are brought to you, not only by our delightful viewers, as, despite the fact that YouTube normally, the common wisdom is that the ad revenue goes down in the start of the new year. Actually, the video watching is generating up. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. But it's also brought to you by patrons who are with us live. I'll remind you about that more later. Mm-hmm. But if you do ever hear us refer to the chat, we are talking about our high-level patrons who are listening and talking to us live as we record every week. I would make the joke for our patrons to say hi, but that literally nobody but them would see it. They all know. Somebody said hi anyway. YouTube comments, say hi back.
Watch, it's just going to be the same person who said hi.
You can say hi to, I mean, they can say hi to themselves. If you want to be try to be a funny man, that's fine. I'm also realizing that when I say the phrase say hi very rapidly, that means I'm saying say hi, which is holy grail.
Say hi, sensual.
That video, Elements of Fate, is still pretty peak. Not as much as the was it the 9th or the 8th anniversary video? That video is still crazy, but the Elements of the Fate series one they did with Nagata-san, Joji-san narrating is very peak.
It is the peakest, yes.
But with our intros and setup done, I mean, it's time to check in with everybody's favorite kohai, Mash.
Senpai, 起きてください.
Because that means it's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai Regiment for Pro Tips. So, this one's a little odd, but I was tipped off to this one earlier in the week. If, which there are a decent number of people, if you're not done with the series of raid battles in this story chapter, when you do the last one of that, consider tucking in some of your QPCEs, because you might get a little something. So, you can there's QP drops involved. It's not like Morgan paying us off. So yeah, you can get a little extra if you can find the space to tuck a CE in there. Just, food for thought. Get those resources back. It is also currently still having the treasure dungeons, which is something I was saying in the pre-recording that I'm doing right now, because I've gotten some back, but I spent a quite decent amount, and we'll probably be spending more, so we'll work on that. But that means it is time for Records on the Throne, our regular Achievo topic.
That means it's gonna be me from the top. So it took all the quartz I had, plus a big pack, but I did manage to get me a Cuckoo and a NP2 Talok. Also another Arjuna and Rita Martha with the bevy of new CEs. That Arjuna was actually my 6th copy, which gave me my 3rd USO.
Damn, that's a lot of Arjuna. I think do I have one normal Arjuna? I think I have one singular.
Yeah, no. Like I said, my USOs are, somewhat burned into my memory, because my first one came from Mordred, my second one came from Queen Sky of Darkness, who I still have in my fucking second archive, by the way. I did not burn her. And then my third one here, it has come from Arjuna. Crazy. Mm-hmm.
No 6th Artoria.
Well, you'd be surprised how many permanent MP5s I have. Like, my Jean MP5. She just
pretty good.
Sitting there, waiting to spook me.
Yeah, not that I necessarily need it, but I realized throughout this one that I'm like, maybe I need to like budget out a little time to roll for NP2 or 3 copies for a couple of servants I have, because looking at the NP1, I'm like, this number could be better. But, we'll discuss that in the future. But, yeah, there's actually a decent number of new CEs that have entered the sphere. But for the sake of storytelling, we're going to pivot over to Not All the World's Evil, but Damn Close, because it's me.
And him.
So I went all of actually in total. It was I wrote down 4, but that number ended up being about 5 multis that night on Cuckoo, which is more than I wanted. But the rolls were awful. I think I got like 2 mins. They were dog shit. Speaking of random NP5s, I got my 5th copy of Assassin Emiya only. Now there is a follow up to this, which is technically moving towards the record zone, but still very bad case. Thanks to the generous donations of viewers like you. I was able to budget the second to largest pack, 40 pack. And on my first paid roll, I got 1 Cuckoo. But other than that, the rolls were dog shit. I think that gave me enough Saint Courts to roll 2 more times. The second roll was a min, and then the third was just like 5 4-star CEs. It was bad. It was real bad. We are not starting off the year strong. But that does mean that to cycle back to Records from the Throne, I did get Kukulkan, and her smile is fully protected. And when I've got the QP and the mats, we'll work on leveling those skills better. I had to stop at 444 because I was being more broke.
I did not actually fully level my Talok or Cuckoo because their ascensions are locked. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to spoil myself. I'm going to wait.
It is kind of funny because I did fully ascend Cuckoo before finishing the story. It means when you hit the unlock condition, the game just cuts in to be like, hey, by the way, here's what you missed.
Yeah, this time I fixed the transparency, so the transparent image is under the logo and the banner. Before it was on top of it, and I was all like, that bugs me a lot.
Yeah. But that brings us to the end of that beginning, which means it's time for... Did you finish your master missions? Your master missions this week are very simple. I assume the master missions are tabulated with the clearing either the Lostbelt itself or probably working on those free quests in mind. So I need you to defeat 3 each of Saber or Assassin, Archer or Caster, or Lancer Rider or Berserker servants. Those are 3 separate missions. You need to defeat 15 humanoid trait enemies, and then complete 5 quests, and then complete 10 quests. Yeah. All of that should be available at some level of progression in the Lostbelt. Like I said, either catching in the story itself or the free quests. And if that doesn't hit every single servant class, you can always just go to Fuyuki and beat up Shadow Servants. Whenever I'm farming Fuyuki, it's so simple. I literally don't even need NPs. I just let Musashi or Ibuki just hit buster cards. But that means that it's time for Skelograms. Oh yes, Skelograms. Mostly JP news. EN is in kind of a between phase right now. The Trom free quests would also be pretty good source for that. Somebody in chat said that they hit up Trom. Yes, because you have to fight the generic servants there as part of the free quest, so that's a really easy way to grab them as well. Little expensive on your AP, but you do get better droppos. So, beginning at the top, a little surprising, but first thing in JP, Ruler Weekly Summoning Campaign started the 20th, going until the 27th.
Surprise!
Yeah, so we switched from Sabers immediately to Extra. So if I were to guess, that means that they're probably going to alternate between each of the core 7 classes and one of the extra classes, because there's now nearly 7 of those. So it's not just going in order like Sabers, Lancers, etc., etc. But the usual stuff for the weekly summoning campaign, all interludes on these rulers are open, double suck on rulers, all training dailies are open, which is very good for rulers because they use a mix of materials. Also, I think for the first time, there's a repeatable trial quest to check out these servants. So not like the normal, like, semi-narrative trial quests, but there's a big training golem you can beat up over and over and over if you want to test out these servants. So that's neat. Cool little detail. And now your list of rate-ups. Because the 4-star rulers are very narrow, each of these rate-ups is basically in the order I've written them, but either or, it's either Ruler Martha or Estrella is the rate-up 4-star.
Okay.
So, and your rate-ups are just, I think, everybody who's a ruler. You've got Jean, Amakusa, Holmes, Chinchi Wong, Buntoria, Himiko, Karen, Ruler Moriarty, Summer Scotty, Johanna, Summer Melusine, and Uzuki Kenshin. I'm fairly certain we haven't had any new rulers since Kenshin. Technically 2 Christmases ago, but about a year ago, and some change. So yeah, that's just everybody fit in one campaign. And also, we got My Little Dragon Summon Campaign number 2, starting the 23rd, going until the 5th. It is a Medusa Saber, Gorgon, and Lancer Medusa Medusiana raid-up. I guess because they didn't want to do 3-star raid-ups, so they didn't cram regular Medusa in there, even though that would be very funny. Or as a tweet that Yu Asakawa, Medusa's voice actress, put on Twitter, Summon Banner, character voices by Yu Asakawa, and Yu Asakawa. Great little bit of humor I saw her quote tweet. And yeah, sadly, no Omi-san. I'm going to guess there's probably not going to be a banner number 3, but it would not be crazy for them to have done a preview for a character we're going to see in a later event this year.
Listen, Valentine's is right around the corner. I am hopeful.
Yeah, could be Valentine's, could be any number of things. We don't really know how they're going to fill the year in because they're going to conclude the story by the end of this year, which I believe means at the end of this year, based on how FGO works. So we got some wiggle room. We also got another rank up for one of them snaky ladies. Gorgon actually has a rank up now. This is her second. Her Guts skill, which was previously Guts and Crit Up, is now a... she also gets the 30 to 50% versus damage versus immobilized enemies that regular Medusa got for 3 turns.
Nice.
And it is also now a 20 to 30% battery. And I know that, like, every servant these days gets a 30% battery upgrade, but, like, I think most of the servants who don't have, like, 3 arts cards need it. Like, I say this as a big fan of Gorgon. Her NP generation sucked. It was very bad. So this, giving her a battery and then giving her the special bonus damage versus immobilized, because of the way, like, her own Mystic Eye skill work, being even stronger than regular Medusa. Very good. Also, because, we just give out... Actually, I should comment one more. I forgot to put a note in here, but it was funny. I brought up, like, I think a week or two ago, somebody was like, oh, I hope they rerun, Saber Medusa soon. And I'm like, well, they are doing the Saber Banner thing, so they probably will see her. But also, she's in this new Snake event. Literally, Saber Medusa just was up for the 1 week, the weekly Saber Banner campaign too, and also we're running her again. So it seems like FGO, like Lysenko, is very committed to this. Everybody gets a raid up as part of this weekly campaign series. And it will not necessarily interfere with what you would expect for the normal summon banners as well. So, that's good that they're not really quibbling about it.
Yeah.
But speaking of just, raid ups for whatever, Evocation Festival Part 9 summon campaign feels a little late, but it's here, the 24th until the 4th. So basically the SSR servants from Evocation Festival events, kind of. We've got a Kagekyo raid up. Obviously, that's supposed to go with... I forgot her name for a second. Miss Tengu. My brain hurts. It's trying so hard.
I'm losing it. I've lost it. Frickin'...
You know who she is. Uji Sensei. My brain is forming all the wrong names. I'm like, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong.
Kichi Hogan, thank you, chat.
Yes, thank you. We got it. Kichi Hogan. Like, just... This is what I talked about, I think, like, last week or a couple weeks ago, where I'm like, all the info in my brain is in filing cabinets, right? And I just hope it's all in the correct order. That moment there was just me open the file cabinet, be like, name, no. Just ripping them out of there, throwing them behind. I'm like, nope, that's not it. That's not the correct fact. Yeah, so Kagekyo, because, she was in the Kichi Hogan event. Brynhild, which is interesting. Like, she matches up, obviously, with Summer Valkyries, but I would have probably gone for Summer Scotty, but it does work. And because we added Erisei, we got a Voyager and a Kyoko raid up, so that's the only one with a 4-star attached. Which, again, is funny, because you could have attached, like, regular Valks to Bryn as well. Maybe it's because they are planning the Lancer one not too far in the future. I don't know.
Maybe.
But yeah, just a couple extra raid-ups, for servants that make sense to keep us on the rotational. And our only bit of EN news, speaking of Johanna earlier when talking about ruler raid-ups, we've gotten a reminder of our roadmap. The limited time event, Johanna and the Unidentified Love, Smash 'em Up, Star, Love, Lovers, and the Great Stone Statue. That is the official name. I copied and pasted this directly from fate/go.us, will occur early February. I'm personally betting, based on our current rotation of being in the middle of the week again, probably on like the 4th or 5th, depending on your time zone. So we'll do pregame next week. But yeah, I'm fairly certain we're going to be hitting the Valentine's event first week in February, which is a little rough. I think Johanna had a little more time to breathe, but she was still kind of boned over in JP because they had already basically announced that the Golden Week collab would be arcade, so everybody was like, Team Adder Bust, Team Adder Bust, Team Adder Bust. So that's where we is right now. If you got any gas in the tank left, to go for it. If not, hold out. And actually, I should say before we transition to Mailbag, I forgot I was gonna make a comment earlier when I talked about generous donation from viewers like you. Obviously, you can support us on Patreon. You support us just by watching the show, even if you've got YouTube Premium. But if you do want to, massage Lucky and I's now future funds for Tiamat and Draco, you can super chat when we live stream. You can super thanks anytime. You can join a channel membership. So those are pretty cheap. Get a little cute star. And of course, as you said, support us on Patreon as well. I think last year we had the bonus damage for your super lock-on as well. But yes, we should continue to get super lock-on buffs for picking your favoritist servantists. So we'll have plenty of fun, I'm sure. But yeah, that is only about just under 20 minutes. All the news, like I said, kind of a holding pattern.
Yarp. So that means it is time for this week's Let's Talk FGO Mailbag, the segment where we read what you have to say and comment accordingly. Let me actually get a count here. I didn't actually check here. We have nine lovely comments. Yay. And we'll get through them all, starting right meow. Our first one comes from Fluffy Arts Enthusiast, who says, "Hello, Lucky and Omega. I just finished LB7 this week, and I wish you the best in luck in completing this wonderful story. I also find it hilarious, how many times my Tamamo has finished off important story bosses, from the Koyanskaya fights to Odaime, and even ended in a 1v1 fight with an important story boss and LB7. Best wishes, and may we have more Tamamo love in the future." I fully agree with this. I would like to get some actual just vanilla Tamamo, though, in story, please. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, can Tamamo and her nine tails, or maybe the golden-furred white-faced fox, get up off her giant throne and help us out a little? I actually, semi-unrelated, but there was a discussion of, super powerful alien beings, and, of course, this being Fate, right, there's a chart for, how powerful, Safar is in Extella, because, she magnifies her power. At the top of that chart, even bigger still than Safar, is Amaterasu / Tama with nine tails, and I'm just like, man, it'd be great if Amaterasu would pitch in a little,
Well, honestly, I don't know. Like was said earlier, does the sun stop and help aside in a war?
True, but
there's some great lines.
No, there's good. It is interesting though. As a solar deity, Amaterasu is a mostly different disposition than Tezcatlipoca, I would say. Not to say that the brief snippets we've got of her don't have her be kind of she's the spirit origin point of Tamamo, so she's kind of, I would say, catty, but I feel like that's the wrong animal pun. But you know what I mean, chat. Maybe a little bit ditzy, considering some stuff that we learned in Tunguska. A little fun-loving, a little freewheeling, but she's got, the muscle power. Dare I say it, a girl failure? She did. Not that she had reason to be upset, because, Susanoo threw a flayed horse at her, but she did get so bummed out she hid in a cave for a lot of years and turned off the sun, and then what brought her out was, a wombo combo of a funny striptease dance and then seeing her own reflection. But also I want to say we did get our super mega ultra, we've thought that there was going to be this super evil Nero form for forever. We got regular Kiara. We've gotten 2 super strong BBs. We've got I think the only person in the squad who doesn't have out of the extra servants who doesn't have a really crazy extra form is Emiya, but he doesn't need it. He's great. He's living his best life, okay? This is a discussion I have with somebody, actually. I think FGO is Emiya's retirement. He doesn't get summoned to stop wars anymore. He just hangs out in the kitchen and feeds people and occasionally imparts to us wisdom. He's fine. Shit. He's chilling. He's been through this shit too many times. But
if we're counting Extella, I think Altera might need a super form. That'd be rad.
That would be true, actually, and we could swing that because you could use the Safar design as a foreigner. That would also be.
Well, it's not just that, but remember in Extella Link, and actually we had the Altera larva form.
Yeah,
which was illegal. How dare they?
Yeah, we still haven't gotten that run, but there's room for, I think, for an extra strong Altera, even if her, son to show up was pretty good. Actually, hold on. There's a servant who could use a swimsuit version. Maybe maybe she hitches a ride with a certain golden sheep again. That fucker. There's a line he says later that I'm. It's like deep in the raid storyline, so of course you wouldn't have got there yet. But I wish you had, because he has some comments that I'm just like, whoa, you be careful what you're saying, sheep. But no. What I was gonna say is that like Tamamo has not had like her mega super powerful ults, even though she has, origin forms and extra strong modes. I guess technically her like last ascension is supposed to be the strongest Tamamo's ever let herself be, because she has 3 tails, which she never goes that high normally in extra. It's like she goes either like 9-tailed mode for a couple seconds in some endings and then ditches all the tails, or 1. But it doesn't feel the same,
Mm-hmm.
We could use a big heavy lifting ult. Like I said, it's not that I think that like we never ever see like vanilla Artoria, because like Nasu feels in his own way that he's done her story to death, basically, is kind of what it feels like. So we have to do ults because he's, written as much as he feels like writing about the normal version of her. Like I feel like there's still stuff untold about Tamamo. Maybe I hope we're not delaying for when Extra Record comes out, because we may be on FGO2 before that comes out. At the rate of like it's the production they're working on. So yeah, let's hope for a super Tamamo sometime.
I mean, I would love. If nothing else, it's like you can't give Nero a fucking beast form and not give Tamamo one. I'm gonna be real. It's not allowed.
Yeah, I'm like that, and that's what I mean. Is like they're supposed to be in parallel. Like that's I feel like that was the undertone of Extra and Extella, is that like the reason why I think Nero and Tamamo get along terribly is because they're too similar in a lot of ways, and they're both supposed to be very dangerous women.
And unfortunately, FGO has gone out of their way to say Koyanskaya is not a Tamamo, just a Tamamo face. So it's like, that doesn't count.
Yeah, I for whatever's happened, I think, because Nasu definitely does do this, I think Nasu fell in love with writing Koyanskaya, and some of the other writers really like writing her because she is similar but legally distinct from Tamamo.
Tamamo at home.
Yeah. I mean, I like, honestly, I think the parallel with not that Emiya doesn't have his own like dark mode with he did get an altar, but like the parallel there, I think, for Emiya's character development versus Gil is we got Castor Gil. We got a Gil who's actually like normal and well adjusted, and he's like, I'm wise.
Normal
now.
for Gil.
Yeah, normal for Gil, making us fucking collect calls in the underworld.
I still will not say no to Ruler Gilgamesh, though.
I'm Ubering you a potion right now, and I'm like, thanks, buddy. Yeah, Ruler Gil would be cool.
Yeah. But I think that is enough fapping about Tamamo. That's a lie. There's never enough fapping about Tamamo, in my opinion. But we do have a show to get through. So we'll move on. This next one comes from the 100-Hour Man, who says, Dear Lucky and Omega, hope you two are having a great week. We are having an awesome time with the 7th Lostbelt. I'm not sure if that's the word I would use, but okay. So, stepping away from that for a second, I had an interesting thought that entered my mind while rewatching Fate Apocrypha Bridge earlier this week. And an alternate timeline where the events of that Grail World took place in 2019, the year between the Singularities and the Lostbelt, I am fairly certain that the protagonist of FGO would be scripted to be a master for the Red Faction in that Grail War. My question this week, if that were to happen, how would you think the Grail World would go down? Just to clarify this question so you don't have to rewrite the entirety of the war, I'm just asking who you think the master would summon. Would it change whose side won the Grail War? And a gut feeling if you think Fujiwara would actually be able to pull a win in it. Or would he/she even survive it? Sorry for the longer question. Keep on being awesome. So, unfortunately, I don't think the premise start doesn't quite work, because you have to remember that the master is actually a very, very, very bad mage. Literally the bottomest fucking tier mage there is. I don't think any mage family, mage association, mage group would pick him or her.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming the theory that was unspoken here is that because in normal Apocrypha, which I'm pretty sure is supposed to be set in 04, it's supposed to replace Fuyuki 4. That like if you move the timeline up, 10 or 15 years, that means that Gordolf will be, grown, as opposed to it being his dad in the war, and then he bought Chaldea. But yeah, you wouldn't actually send Ritsuka Fujimura to the front line because they're a dogshit mage, and the Yig Millennia faction is like they picked the best mages they could, and then for Red, I think Waver picked like all the best guys he could. Only one of them actually mattered because they were all fucking mind controlled by Semiramis like right away.
No, like you have to remember, the master, the protagonist, Riska Fujimara, Gudako, as it says, doesn't actually have a lot of magical energy, nor have a lot of like magic talent. Their one astounding ability is their ability to hold multiple servant contracts at once, and that is it.
Very high master compatibility, very low magicman compatibility. A point of order that is actually, I think, very useful to this Lostbelt is to think of basically we're the polar opposite of Daybit.
Yeah.
Daybit is a crazy strong mage for reasons that we will get into a little bit. He is a terrible master because he has like very poor connection to anything remotely resembling humans. So yeah. That said, I can at least say with this last hypothetical question, would they be able to survive it? Yes. I want to say that's Ritsuka Fujiwara's other special talent. Literally will not die. So many things should have fucking killed us, and we just don't.
I do think they yeah, I don't know. Like, I also feel like some of maybe like our survivability has come from spending a fuck ton amount of times with servants. Honestly, Fujimara Ritsuka has probably one of the best educations going around right about now, because boy howdy, he some servants know some things. Remember, his entire joke. I believe it was an entire joke of how many masters he has. I can't remember. Was it a Medea? Was it a Medea story or a Kirky story? I think it was maybe a Kirky. But Medea's going like, why do you have so many masters?
You have a lot of teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the post does say it would be the gap year between Lostbelts and Singularity. So you'd have at least 7 Singularities of working out.
Yeah, but also I don't like, if we're also being real, I do not like, that was the entire point when Chaldea was also under fucking investigation.
Oh yeah, we literally couldn't leave even though our job was done.
Yeah, so they probably would not have brought him out. And even if they did, that'd probably be more like, again, I think I've talked about this. Once this actually gets done, if Fujimara isn't given a fucking ceiling designation, it is probably solely because Goldorf went, no, don't.
Well, and as we've established, also, I think everybody from the original Chaldea team is gonna, like, work their butt, because they said they want to put us back where we belong, so, like, every single mage in what's left of the Astromancy department who works at Chaldea is gonna be like, nope, this kid's fine.
I would like it, though, if we do FGO2 and Fujimara did get a ceiling designation, but Toko found him and decided to take him under her wing. I'd be like, yes, give me that. That'd be the best.
Toko's speaking of, our wish list, Toko's a great character because, like, we know that canonically she just kind of bounces in and out of being, in the association because she's got a ceiling designation, and when she feels tired of mage politics, she just says, bye, and then they're like, wait, no, you can't, you're sealed, and she's just like, lol, I'm already 50 puppets. And Enforcer tries to catch her, and she just explodes into puppet parts. She climbs into her magical cat suitcase and disappears like Mary Poppins.
I don't know. I think Zeldrich is too... Well, Zeldrich kind of, unfortunately, kind of exists outside of time and space. He literally sits in a chair and just looks at different fates and be like, and maybe like might poke one to change something here or there.
I am assuming, based on information that we will talk about in this recap, that FGO timeline implies that Old Man Zeldrich is still in charge of the clock tower. Because they say that the Dean of the Clock Tower has been around since before the era AD. That I can only, he only exerts so much direct control. He might just be like, send him to the basement. Don't we keep all our most dangerous shit in the basement? And he's like, yeah.
Well, honestly, the way that Zeldrich worked, he probably... he might have done something to put us in this situation in the first place.
Actually, no, that's true. I would totally believe that, because we, as you said, we do know that he massages fate sometimes, and the master just randomly saw a Chaldea recruitment ad and did a medical screening and was picked because of their exceptionally high master compatibility. So, that's I'm pretty sure it's canon that basically Fujiwara Ritsuko was like doing the equivalent of like doing a blood donation so they could get some cookies or something, right? Like they were just like, calling a security organization sounds cool. Oh, a free medical screening? Sure. And then, thumped us on the head, put a black bag over us, shipped us to Antarctica. Yeah, you get 5,000 yen if you join up. And Fujiwara's like, 5,000 yen? That's the most I've ever had in my life. We do know that Zelrich is like he has phenomenal cosmic power because he has the second magic. He is a troll. Remember that he designed the Kaleido sticks and finds it very funny that Rin and Luvia had to do magical girl transformations. Like he was like, yes, this is a feature, not a bug. Bye. Hangs up the phone. Great ancestor Zelrich, I've turned into a magical girl using your infinite mana stick. What should I do? Skill issue. Click.
Listen, Zelrich has been through some shit. He gets to make some jokes.
Well, I think he's the only person who can say he's done a thing like similar to what we've have to have done. He did fight the equivalent of an ultimate one once.
He won technically.
I think a lot of this. I think the last time I talked about this, a lot of this came up in my wanted for Archetype Earth. Y'all should dig that video up if you want to recap on that. But no, I in my best conspiracy theory voice walked through how vampires work in Nasu's reality. So I had to explain. Yeah, Crimson Moon is just the strongest moon guy. Why is the strongest moon guy like a super anime vampire? I don't fucking know, because that's what Nasu wanted. Don't ask me these questions.
But. Give me a second here.
Yep.
All right. But yeah, so unfortunately, I don't mean to deny your premise, but thinking logically with what I know and how we know things work, no, I do not actually think that the said Grail War would happen. So with that, we shall move it on it. This next one comes from Monster Girl Aficionado, who says, "Dear Lucky Omega, no question this week, just sending good vibes. Wah 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 wah, and wishing you well. Keep up the great work. P.S. Don't worry about story progress, Lucky. I'm consistently lagging a show behind. Just finished chapter 12. Well, that does make me feel slightly better. More and more people are joining the Finish the Lostbelt and Leave Lucky Behind, making him sad club. I have to write a lot, guys. Show notes are at, God, let me see here. 67 pages? Yes.
Yeah.
And we're not done.
No.
When I actually get to the raids, I probably won't have too much to say. There probably won't be too much, but there'll still be story and stuff in there as things are happening. So
yeah, there's 2 sections worth of story pips interwoven between the battles, but the time sink is the actual fights. I'll say it now because it won't come up until next week otherwise, but I'm pretty sure it took me about 7 or 8 hours all told to do both sets of raids fully. It was a little bit of preamble of the intro fights, and then just knuckle down and crunch, and I'm not counting the break I took for us to played up for hour and a half, 2 hours. I am counting the time I had to take off to recharge my phone because there was a lot going on. So
yes, by the way,
a decent investment of time.
I did keep a copy of our LB6 notes, and that clocks in at 93 pages. But very specifically with our LB6, we actually split up our notes. We are probably already reaching, if we were to treat it, if we were to do redo the LB6 notes as we are actually probably have more to say in probably more to say in LB7 than we do 6. Mostly because, again, I think we have found our writing flow.
I also want to say, it's funny we joked to Nasu because it's so fucking long, that he said, oh, it's just a simple fantasy story. But actually, in terms of plot progression, LB6 is fairly A to B. There are character reveals that are important, and there's a little bit of playing with time that we do that matters. But, there's much less macro scale exposition because I feel like this Lostbelt, because it's kind of setting up the true mystery reveal thing, it's got to explain what will eventually become Ordeal Call, because it is setting up for future, and that at least is that at least I do appreciate once you get towards the back half of this. It becomes very clear that, oh, this is definitely not done after we beat this Lostbelt. That's a very important milestone for us, but we still have a lot of shit to unpack after that, which is,
Yep.
I think, something you and I, Lucky, have been saying since, like, LB2 or 3 of, like, guys, logistically, what do we do after this? We beat up 7 trees. What are we doing after that? And, like, I think I even have a note later of, like, yeah, so now we're actually asking the question of, like, hey, what do we be doing next? What is going on here? Maybe we should ask these questions. You know, we were bouncing around so fast. But like I said, LB6 is dense. It has a lot of stuff going on, but like the actual plot flow is very straightforward. There are multiple sections where we step down and there is almost nothing but just explaining multiple facets of either this Lostbelt. We have to like cram an entire discussion of what the fuck Ort is into this at multiple points. You know, there's a lot of stuff, like, honestly, after Wodaime, which makes sense because they were buds, but after Wodaime, I think this is the most character development we get of a Cryptor in a long time, like, in one single Lostbelt. Kadok probably has more on-screen time, but that's because he didn't die, so he, you know, gets to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But,
just
like,
one of the dudes.
Like, we do some very extensive deep diving to explain what the fuck is going on with David, because like they did so much to upsell him at the start of this of like, oh yeah, Da Vinci thought he was a true genius, but also a true freak, and she wasn't wrong. But like that sets up a lot of expectation. Actually, everybody take a shot. OSP did a trope talk today, which is it's the trope the dreaded, talking about characters who are feared in story, you know, by reputation only. David kind of was that. Like we did a lot of talking up about like how crazy he is. So or it's also a dreaded, but like in Cryptor terms, we talked up David a lot. So this Lostbelt has to do a lot of work to like make that reputation pay off. I think it succeeds and doesn't like make him overstay his welcome, but it is like an important facet. And then also we do something that's like really cool, but also involves a shitload of story time. We're fucking spending screen time with you, Olga, which is important, but technically, like, I want to say, like, 80 or 90% completely unrelated to what's going on in this Lostbelt. It's not completely unrelated. It does actually link up. But, like, it's still, like, so much screen and character time and stuff is like, spent in this. So, yeah, the notes are huge because there's so much exposition. And, like, to finish this thought, so much exposition actually directed to us, you know? Like, some stuff still in, like, flash asides and, like omnipotent storytelling, but, like, all of the wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey fragments we got in LB6 were all basically, like Mash's POV, right? Filling us in what she was doing when she was off-screen.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Like, while there are a couple of fragments that follow that formula in this Lostbelt, there are less of them. Most of the exposition is just straight up somebody being like, all right, sit down. I've got to explain some shit to you. And then you're like, can you draw me a diagram, perhaps?
No, Lucky was there. Lucky was absolutely there, just like,
Thankfully, that person is very helpful.
Very nice. But I think it is time for us to move on to the next one. So, with that, we moveth on it. This next one comes from Hi, and they say, hello. Hang on, I gotta go change someone's nickname real quick. Hang on.
No. I said in the comments to the YouTube video. The YouTube video didn't exist yet.
All right, everyone, look at Robin's new name. All right, mission accomplished. So, moving on. We're gonna pretend that never happened. This next one comes from Not a Genji, and they say, hey, Lucky number 7 and Alpha Omega. No question or anything. I just here to wish you good luck on any roles you do and hope you have a good weekend. P.S. Summer Woo plus Kahawk is a funny combination. Highly recommended for anyone who has those servants to try it. I probably should be like playing around with more servants. I like rolling for servants and I like leveling in and doing stuff with them, but I, like many other people, usually fall back on my on what I know when trying to do stuff.
Well, you'll have a wonderful opportunity shortly.
That is true, I suppose. Great. Thanks, FGO.
I did
That's
actually
exactly what I wanted.
I did actually flex quite a few units I haven't busted out in a while for a little bit there.
It's always what I wanted. Okay. So with that, we movity on. This next one comes from Cam May Be Crazy, but he's also cool. One might even say ice cold. But they say, howdy, Lucky Omega. Hope LB7 didn't treat you too horribly as far as the battles anyway. My question to y'all this week is, who has been your MVP for bosses in LB7? I ask because my anchor Jinako really pulled through in one fight in particular, so I completed this story not reviving at all. Man, you people are good at this game. I think I'm at 4 Leyline Stone uses total so far, and I just finished 17. Oof.
I think I used 4 in 17, so my number is higher. That, like I said, that's an intentional. I will discuss it when we get there, but I just locked into well, I have rocks.
I guess that is the point.
Tough. She's a I think she's got the highest HP in the game still. So yeah.
No, but when it comes to MVPs, I really can't say who's my MVP. Unless I want to use the qualification of Tamamo faces, because I've been using Koyan Skya Light and Dark a lot. I've also been, but if I'm not using them, generally I'm using my arts team, which usually involves Castoria, Tamamo, and whoever they are buffing the fuck out of. Sometimes I usually just put my Tamacat in the bag just in case I need someone to fuck shit up. In case you do not remember, my Tamacat is level 120. She has stonks.
Yeah, I've seen her pop on the top of my list a couple of times in friend support.
Yeah. So, I guess just the Tamamo Club has been my been mine.
I think for the front half, shockingly, my best hitters for some servants was first of all, with so many mindless dinos around and stuff, Koyan of Dark did a lot.
It's funny to drop rocks on them.
Yep. And then for certain, because there's a preponderance of Avengers and a couple of Night class fights, the people doing my heavy lifting were actually my archetype Earth, she's got a lot of juice. So she, Moon Cancers, Moon Women, very strong. And actually, I mentioned I wrote down a couple of times when fighting some of those fights with Night class enemies. As my only offensive pretender, Hephaestion fucking doing a lot of heavy lifting. For the back half, honestly, I mean, a lot of servants got used, but the servants I'm hitting the most consistently are I want to say just alter egos KP. Huge winner, King Protea. Just that special damage up, or special resistance up, crazy good. And somebody even said it in chat. I think Space Ishtar is probably one of my number 2 or 3 highest attack servant. So she gets a lot of use when I'm just all right, I need a fuck ton of attack right now. What will I do? Yes, send him to space.
As you do. Yeah, no. I'm trying to think of my combinations. No, there was one fight where I just literally pulled out my Ibuki 3-turn clear team, and I did that. So no, I think it's probably thinking about it overall. I think probably it's just been my Tamo who's been doing the work.
I will say, shockingly, just because of the way the team comps worked out, did not lean on Castoria a lot during this Lostbelt. I had her bust out a couple times, but honestly, some of my best servant picks were actually Quicks or Busters sometime. And when I did use an art support, I actually got to run out Lady Avalon a few times because them pretend strengths and weaknesses.
So with that, let us move on. As this one comes from the Tyrant King, who managed to pull a hat trick and got Tez, Cuckoo, and Talok in a single summon session. Yes, but how much did you spend in said session?
Also, must have done a lot of waiting to have all those banners up at the same time.
Well, I salute their fortitude. I can't wait for shit. But they say, hey guys, no question this week, sending good vibes your way. Wah 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 wah. And hope you have a great evening. Same to you, buddy. But we're gonna move on to Victorian Arms Dealer, who says, question, out of all the outfits of Koyan Skya, which one is your favorite? If we're talking purely story sprite ones, I actually think her Indian Lostbelt one is probably one of my favorites. Probably followed up by the Chinese Lostbelt one.
Let's just go with the NFF code for me. Big Fluff.
The Big Fluffy code is nice. I would not mind. I definitely would like an NFF code, but yeah. So, with that, we move not so swiftly on to our last, but definitely not least. This one coming from Agent 418, pouring 1 Alpha El Rey Sensu Reno Camazotz. And they say, hello, Lucky Omega. Have a good weekend, y'all. Thank you. Same to you, my dude. that is it for this week's mailbag.
Alrighty. My face. There's no free talk. I mentioned this before the show, but I'll say it right now so that Lucky can take a second to breathe, drink a little bit of water.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
But probably should have scheduled so you didn't get that 5-star for Talak today. But she is a pretender, and that means that there's extra baggage. So we'll spare a little bit of time so we can hit her. More people can hit her true name reveal gap and work through all the other stuff. So we're not too far down.
You want to go to page 44-ish, because I am there. Minutes.
Starting at 13.
So once again, we're going to give the spoiler warning. We are starting from section 13. We'll be going to the end of section 17. There will be spoilers, there'll be a lot of exposition, and there will be a lot of us talking. If someone be so kind to mark this time in the video, I would be oh so appreciative.
Yes, I've been making sure when someone does comment with the times when we break into the discussion to actually pin that comment so it's at the top when people go down to the comments.
Yes. Also, again, I think I mention this every once in a while, but I am Spanish Mesoamerica pronunciation. I have no idea. I am literally winging it. If I say something wrong, don't feel free to give me some sort of pronunciation in the comments or whatever. Just don't be mean about it. I'm trying my best.
Yes, that's relevant because the title of this one is Third Underworld, and I think that's Shosho Ahui? Ahui? There's an A. It's an A-U-H into a Qui, and I'm like, I think it's switching vowels faster on me.
Ahui. So it's like Jaja Ahui. I don't know. But section 13, Third Underworld, Jaja Ahui. Take heed of how many pips, kids.
Yeah, I wrote this earlier. There's a lot of pips. This is quite a long section. And I wrote later, subthought. The Lostbelt's very long. There aren't that many story sections, and actually, the concluding chapters, the final 2 pips are, mega short. The final 2 sections are literally 1 pip each. But I realized this when writing about this. We're at section 13, there's 24 sections in this, 24 in this Lostbelt. We should be at the halfway-ish point, and it doesn't feel like it. Like I wrote down, I read, pure story notes very fast. Obviously when there's battles, you got to take some time, try some stuff out, maybe reset. And even if you are doing well, some battles are very long. But even I have to stop every once in a while and wrap my head around what we're doing, because there's still at this point so much story to do, a lot of lifting to do, both narratively and also physically. Going back to a joke I think I made last week, Puku needs to carry us farther.
But we start with Pip 1. Next day, it's the next day. We're about to set out. Tepu offers a service as a guide once again, and we have a communication line to the storm border. The Dino 11 are excitedly running around Nitocris, who is coming along as well.
More shots of them, running and jumping.
I love them. I love them to death. While she is enjoying her newfound fame, Nitocris worries over the fact that she beat Camazotz because they held an advantage over him, and worries about her strength against Talak. Cuckoo shows up a bit late looking for supplies, but Tepu has all that covered. Cuckoo mentions that Tepu has got better at asserting himself, which Tepu denies. But
yeah, there's a dialogue option here, and of course we go with, when you adjust your glasses, I know you mean business.
Yes.
He's got a serious face sprite, so we know what's up.
We know what's up. Speaking of his glasses, Tepu made his. They help him avoid looking upon things he shouldn't. The implications for this were spoiled for me a long time ago, and I hate it. Those who are astute may figure it out early.
Now you might figure it out here, but it's something they sprinkle in as we go.
Yeah.
This is our second or third hint.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, also one more thing, actually, I want to say this. Not in my notes, but I learned this upon doing my research for Wanted Kukulkan. Watch now.
Yeah.
I believe, Lucky, you wrote down in our part 1 recap what Tepu's name means.
Yeah.
Yeah, it means sovereign. It's from the Mayan language. It's from the Quiche Maya specifically. But I know this because in the Popol Vuh, which is the Quiche Mayan history of the world, I guess, basically. It's their, mythological text explaining the creation of everything in their history. In the beginning, there is nothing but primordial waters until the god Cucumatz, which is the Quiche version of Kukulkan or Quetzalcoatl, and the god named Tepu decide, hey, we should make some stuff. And then Cucumatz, which is written with Q's, it's also sometimes written Gukumatz, sometimes is given the title Tepu as an epithet, sovereign of all things. So it's just considering they're pals, it's just a funny little one with the writing.
Well, apparently, this will come up later, but apparently, Tep and Cuckoo have hung out more than we realize. But we cross over to the 5th stratum, and sure enough, the Ocelot unit is there, but we are starting to understand their language somehow, which is strange. After beating them up, we make camp among the cornfields, and Cuckoo mentions that it's considered the flesh of the gods and is a second source of energy to the Danos, next to the sun. Tepu shows up with a giant ear of corn. It's huge.
They make them big here. I mean, I guess they gotta feed big boys like Wak Chan this corn, so...
Yeah.
Eat some big fucking corn.
Big fucking corn. Tepu says we're gonna be seeing the Galactic Sand Dunes tomorrow, and he wants us to eat up and rest well. And to that, bust out the soy sauce to make roasted corn. Cuckoo is confused. Pip 2. Estás Huichcotl? I probably heard that. To burnt maize field. So it turns out Cuckoo is a glutton for roasted corn. Foreign culture wins again. Apparently she has eaten 10 times her body weight. Nito Chris wonders, among other things, why Cuckoo looks human even though she is a goddess related to the Danos. At this point, Cuckoo declares a war on roasted core and will not rest until every kernel is in her belly. After dinner time, it is time for Da Vinci's Mythology Corner! We briefly recap what we saw when we arrived and also explain why the Lostbelt is using mythology from Central America. We are still physically located in South America, so we're going to keep calling it the South American Lostbelt.
Yeah, it's so funny because there are a lot of memes about people like, the South American Lostbelt looks inside Central America. And it turns out, it's in Section 13, so it's buried in there deep. But no, we have an explanation for that. The mythology is Mesoamerican, but physically, the giant fucking cylinder we're in is under the whole continent. It's big down here.
Especially when you consider that when you go through the Storm War bar border, you see Pangea.
Yeah, it's super big.
Yeah.
But yes, now it's time for Teach Me Da Vinci-chan. She means business. She's adjusting her glasses. And this is I don't know what track they used for this. I didn't recognize it, so I'm wondering if it's new.
I don't think it's new, but I don't think it's used often, because I think they use 3 different, because I read this note and I was like, oh, is there something new? And I was listening, and I could have swore that I've heard this track, somewhere before, but unfortunately, I can't pick off where immediately.
No, and there's a lot of tracks, but yeah, it's if it is not new, because there's so much exposition in this Lostbelt, we have to use, every expositional music theme we have and make up some new ones. So if it's not new, it's very rarely used, so it's hard to tell.
Did the dot show up in Canada? I don't remember.
I mean, technically, I think it is. It's over northern North America because there's no national borders on the map. So if we're getting funny adjustments on the paper moon of where we're looking, but it's I think I remember, didn't they say the geography is supposed to be somewhere in the Midwest?
I don't know.
We did enter it by crossing the Arctic Circle, though, so it would be up north.
Things are weird. So Da Vinci goes on to explain that people have always had an exception with the stars, with things like rockets upon their mules. Magecraft posits that these people had the genetic memory of the 5 extinction events, one of the 5 extinction events, the Yucatan impact. Da Vinci says that this is because something else was on that meteorite, something intelligent. In order to survive, these landforms attach themselves to the plants or fungi and continued to multiply rapidly, he's got to slow down and enunciate. These were the beginnings of the Mesoamerican gods. Once humans came around, these same creatures attached themselves to the most compatible and gave them the visions of the meteorite.
Insert the ancient aliens meme here.
Aliens. Continuing with tidbits here and there, Da Vinci mentions that this fungus more or less resembles the root of a plant, much more like a nervous system. Hey, you know what else has a root system all up in their joint? I guess there are 2 giant space trees.
Yeah, at some point I think it's because Da Vinci has to give us an analogy, but the god filaments, as they're called later, are described basically simultaneously as being a plant, a fungus, and a bacteria, because they are microscopic at times.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they're alien life, so they would not necessarily correspond to what we understand, but it does mean that we have to draw a lot of comparisons.
This goes on to explain that while Ketz and Tez are gods, they look human, as they were human with godly power, as they were just hosts for the carrier of the gods. Apparently, fungi carrying mystics from the age of gods isn't exactly new, and that's how the Aztec and Mayan civilizations came to be.
I actually, because you said carrier of the gods, just remembered. That is actually not a new concept in Nasu even before this. That is technically how Bazet's family works. Her family's
really?
magecraft is passed down from her ancestor, the god, which is why she can create a Fragarak, which would normally be a noble phantasm, a mystery that humans can't replicate. So I'm pretty sure that Bazette's backstory implies that there are multiple mage families who basically have like their magical system or their foundation like coded in their genetic memory because they're descended from supernatural creatures. That's something that I didn't think about until you said Carrier of the Gods with multiple capital letters. I'm like, wait, I'm pretty sure that's what we call Bazette.
I know that Gray carries, something, but I don't think that was genetic. I think that was a ritual that they forced upon her or something, which is why she hates her face.
Yeah, the fact that she looks different is because somebody like activated it with magecraft. I do think she actually is supposed to be a genetic line descendant of the line of King Arthur, but the reason why they have a ritual to like activate her is because of one of Morgan's many double secret super schemes. I don't know which of her literal 3 separate personalities play into that one.
Da Vinci wraps up his conversation, explaining there is still so much they do not know and understand, and Tepu joins the conversation after Cuckoo enters a food coma. We figure out that because of the strange abilities the Danos possess, they must have been the species picked by the God Filaments to continue as the prime species. In a way, this has made them the perfect intelligent life form. They are strong and don't have to compete for resources. In a way, this is what Wodaime wanted for humanity. Also, while we do understand that the Yucatan impact was probably the divergent point for this Lostbelt, we still don't exactly understand what happened. The God plants try to talk to us in our sleep again, telling us while Da Vinci is mostly correct, they actually arrived earlier than expected and used their roots to hold Pangea together, along with choosing the existing species to carry on. So I just realized in some way Corns really is the flesh of the gods, so I will be referring to the God Filaments as Supercorn from now on.
Supercorn.
Supercorn.
I just want to say it the same way that in fucking Psychopaths they're always saying Hypa Oats.
Hypa Oats. We wake up and realize that Cuckoo is up too. We figure that she was faking being asleep this entire time. Also, it turns out the night sky in Mictlan is made with phosphorescence. Neat. Continuing to talk, it turns out Da Vinci was wrong on one thing, and Cuckoo didn't want to weigh in. She doesn't want to tell us exactly what happened, but knows that Mala is talking to us in our sleep. Cuckoo then calls us out on not saying anything, but seems a little surprised when we tell her that we don't remember it well. She flees the conversation again, and we try to get back to bed. Pip 3. Burnt maize field to Jahawaki. You can't see it, but Lucky just shrugged. As is usual, Tepu starts off by telling us what the layer should be like. In this case, Jahawaki should be a desert under eternal night with many oases. A perfect place for stargazing, even if the dinos can't stay long due to there being no sun. Nitocris is jazzed to hear it.
Yeah, we're gonna get some real desert. Now entering the blue layer.
Nitocris is shocked. Da Vinci Mash Hobitrop gobsmacked. Tepe is amused. Apparently, we have traded our gentle night desert for an arid wasteland with gravitic anomalies. The sandstorms are like needles, the oases are floating in the skies, and to top it all off, everything past 400 meters is all vacuum.
Yeah, and my response to realizing this was, okay, so the blue layer isn't even blue! It's fucking Dune in here! If I have to walk without rhythm, I'm going home.
Speaking of going home, that sounds like a good idea, as we don't have the supplies to make a trek. But upon turning around, we see that the jungle we have just exited is gone. We have somehow been transported to the middle of the desert, and that's no good. We, nor Tepa, will be able to regulate our temperature or get enough water here. If only we had some yellow cucumber, but that's rare, and only the ownerless shopkeeps would carry it. Immediately, we give another, and we remember something.
Yeah, Scoutmaster David of the Chaldea Scouts saves us again.
We pull out from our pack the item in question, and Tepu almost immediately eats it. Cuckoo tells him, "Down, boy," with a smack, and Tepu apologizes and explains he is already starting to fry. Fortunately, we have two, and damn, they are pretty good. Cuckoo is curious where we got them, but before we get into that, there are hostiles detected.
Yeah, I think they describe the cucumber as like, it's like eating an ice cream.
Yeah, I believe you have a couple,
yeah. The ice cream.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of them, but I remember the ice cream one.
We have to move on because Shiva says we have worm sign the likes of which God has never seen.
We pair for battle with Nitocris leading the charge, but as we move to support her, we realize that something is wrong. We cannot summon like we used to, even though we are within an underworld boundary.
Yeah, I can't remember when I just wrote this next quote down. I think it was after this section, but it might be after the next section. I don't know.
Actually, I don't, like, this is the unfortunate thing. You write these things, I'm all like, I'm not entirely sure where you said this.
Yeah, my problem is that now, even after you space them out, I'm like, I don't actually know which section I want it. Like, the quote I wrote down is, "Father, the sleeper has awakened," because I'm just quoting Dune now. I'm quoting, like, the Dune movie from the 70s. And that's just, like, the mood we're in, but I genuinely don't know where in that I decided to say this. Like, this is the part where, I joke about walking without rhythm and then the worm sign, and this is just, well, we're just doing stuff, so I'm just gonna finish my joke. And I genuinely do not know where the actual bit is. But that's fine. We have more bits.
Well, no, we do have more bits. So, afterwards, Nitocris is quite peeved at having to fight on her own, but apologizes for her anger after understanding the situation. Before we can try and figure out what the rule is that keeps us from summoning, we behold a giant pair of legs. We need to get out of sight quickly, but with no obvious places to hide, Nitocris whips out her sacred garment to cover us. Finally, I too have become Megid.
Great payoff for this.
Pip 4. And indeed, it is the Lord Magic Cloth that Nitocris likes to wear and tries to play dumb about. Nevertheless, we are okay and waiting to see what the giant is. So in the meantime, let's have a chat. We speak of how this boundary closely resembles, hold on a second here, Panklutola-Kaloyan.
That sounds about right. That's pretty close. There's a lot of consonants and vowels in this one.
The 5th level of actual Mictlan, with its great desert, strong winds, and 8 oases. We're thinking of crossing the oasis here, but having to fly or float, which will lead us into a conversation about gravity. No point in thinking about it too hard, though. Whatever dangers may be, we have Nitocris, Queen of the Desert, on our side, and she'll figure things out. Nitocris is less than thrilled with us.
And then after battling 10,000 sandworms, we're free.
Yeah, I don't like fighting sandworms.
No, there's a lot of them. And then we do fight giant sandworms, which are fucking Orochis.
Pip 5. Nitocris is kicking ass and writing names, but she is overworking herself. She clearly feels the weight of responsibility as the first servant summoned to help, not to mention her loss to Talak is on her mind. She also mentions how she couldn't do anything against the giant energy woman that downed the storm border, and we remember that is a potential threat as well. Cuckoo suddenly looks very nervous, and we put 2 and 2 together. Conveniently, we are under attack once again, and Cuckoo is raring to go for some odd reason.
Yeah, this is perfect comedic timing of just like because I'm pretty sure you and I both knew well before this that like, gee, who else is like a super strong, tall woman who's green? Who could it be? But the master finally being like, wait a minute. Wait a second.
Yeah, by the way, the third pip of this battle is a giant leg, and I just had a legitimate moment.
It's a very familiar giant leg.
Mm-hmm.
And we're committed, by the way, to just the legs.
After defeating the giant leg, the sandstorm clears up, and we are a little confused, but glad nonetheless. We plan to make our way to one of the nearby oases when we spot a figure collapsed in the distance.
Yes, and when we meet them, they are a mysterious golden sheep-like youth. Whoever could it be?
After a strange bit of introduction, according to Not Doomsy here, he was the original caretaker of this boundary, but one day a goddess showed up and demanded that he fill the land with flowers and sheep. Not Doomsy was working on that when Camazotz flew over and messed with the goddess a bit. She then turned into a very scary goddess and proceeded to fight Camazotz, who flew away in irritation. She then drained all the flowers for magical energy to make the Heavenly Echo Shrine, which was the giant leg we just defeated. At this point, you can ask if he is a golden sheep creature you know, but he cuts you off before you can. Not Doomsy says that the exit isn't over by the oasis. Fortunately, he knows the way out, but we have to move very fast, and Not Doomsy turns to go. You can see a interesting sight on his back. We call him out for being Doomazid, but at this moment a voice rings out over the sand.
Thank you for the cut-in shot of the skirt first, cameraman. You are the wind beneath my wings. Love these action cut-ins. As just our mysterious person is just like, Doomazid, you squalid fuck, there you are. I've been looking for you. And all of this to what I think is, I'm pretty sure this is another new music piece, because I listened to this, the melody is not new. This is a remix of what they used for Ishtar's leitmotif in the Babylonia anime, which I don't remember if it was in regular Babylonia. It might be. But this is like all dark and techno. So I don't remember this version from previously. I feel like I would recognize this bop if I heard it before, because this is good.
I do think this one is new, or is it? I was gonna check, I forgot. You ever forget? I forgot.
Chat will let us know.
Mm-hmm. So it's a Reshka Gal, but she's been hitting the tanning salon and taking courses in haughtiness. She is now going by Nikki Gal.
Yeah, so actually I wrote this down because I wanted to be sure, because, several of our other Guardians decided to switch their names around a little. I actually think that if we're being literal, the name Ninkigal is a downgrade. Ereshkigal's name is usually translated as Queen of the Great Earth, referring to the underworld. While she is sometimes referred to in language as Ninkigal, that just means roughly literally Lady of Great Earth. If we were gonna make her more underworld, probably the thing we do with her text box is just call her Irkala, the name of the underworld, much like how Hades the god sometimes refers to both himself and the place Hades.
Mm-hmm.
So, if she was trying to emphasize more that she is I am the underworld, but she decided to go Ninkigal instead. If you know your obscure Sumerian myth facts, this probably just goes to show you that, as usual, Ninkigal is trying her hardest, but she's still got that, classic grin face klutz. She's still girl-failing it a little bit. Yeah, she's trying to sound new and cool, but she's normal.
She's trying to make her high school debut.
I'm so glad this is not right away, but I'm so glad this is a costume later.
Oh, Pip 6. I give thanks to the tip that if Cuckoo goes down, it's game over.
Yes, thank you for these tips.
Anyway, it's Ninky, aka not Aresh, but as bad girl as she is now, she is still the Aresh we met in Babylonia, even if she is trying really hard not to admit it.
I'm definitely not the same servant, how dare you.
Her authorization has put her lung and thinking more in line with Ishtar, and the result is amusing. Not that I'll ever admit that. Also, this fight was amusing. It was the one where you have to lose with Cuckoo still standing. Thankfully, they made that fairly easy with Cuckoo able to tank many, many hits.
Yeah, I think in general when you're using her, support Cuckoo has almost always has max HP up and special resistances. Also, she's constantly debuff immuning and pierce involing herself.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, Ninky is invincible with her wall of Golgana legs, which is apparently more cost effective than just summoning Golgana. Wild. And apparently sends everyone but Cuckoo and the Master flying. Doomazid flashes you a peace sign, turns back into a sheep, and rockets away.
What a fucker.
While reveling in her victory, Ninky declares that she wants to capture you so you can be her personal gem artisan. Classic Aresh. Pip 7. Scene change. We're at one of the oasis, and our teammates have been captured and put into some of Ninky's spear cages. Ninky shows up to tell us that we're going to be slaves, much like Egypt's slaves were, and Nitocris takes offense to that.
Yes, I added this note in later, but in case you're still operating under a popular misconception, general historical consensus is that the pyramids were built by a paid labor force. We have graffiti on the blocks from, work teams who were competing. There's archaeological record of the workers' villages next to pyramids, and in their waste sites, they have signs of high-quality bread, beer, and meats. There's even at least one case of record, I don't know how universal this was, but there's a story dug up from, overseers' records that we found archived that there at least one pyramid work site there was a strike, there was a work stoppage because their beer ration wasn't paid, which obviously beer is food and drink in the ancient world, so it's a very big deal. So yeah, they were still working class citizens in a feudal world, but they were not enslaved. The pharaoh was like, all right, well, you're not doing anything with your farm while the Nile is flooded, come build my pyramid, it's super cool, here, fistful of bread and beer.
So Ninka then asks why Nitocris isn't doing all she can. After all, she should have been just as much authority in the underworld as Ninky did. But Nitocris is preoccupied with maintaining her current self. This gives Nitocris pause for thought. Moving on, Ninkin says she gave up her dreams and even her right to return to Chaldea to become a more perfect goddess. All that so she can accomplish her goals. With that all explained, though, she asks Mash where the Master is, and it turns out that we were able to escape with Cuckoo.
Great Aresh expression here.
Yes.
Foolish underworld goddess.
I do like it. Nink is just all alright, where's the Master? Is he hiding under your shield, Mash? Acting very familiar with Mash, and Mash is oh no, he's not here. And she's like, what?
Which means, by the way, again, Aresh kicked everybody into the next dimension, scooped them all up in her cages, set them up at her oasis, did a whole monologue, and didn't realize the Master wasn't there. She forgot to do a head count.
So we find ourselves in a cave with Cuckoo, probably Dumazid's hideout. We apologize to Cuckoo for making her hold back, and finally have a talk to her about it. We promise that we won't get mad about whatever happens, and as a sign of trust, we decide to make a contract with her. And just as the mood is getting good, Dumazid shows up. Fucking sheep. Anyways, the shady sheep is being a shady sheep as always, but lets us know that if Cuckoo can defeat her, Nikki would no longer be someone who has never known defeat, and will turn back into a Resh. We mount up on the golden sheep and take to the skies. I'm usually not for mods in my games, but there was a Dumazid mod for Final Fantasy XIV. I'd probably use it. Especially if they put one of the Babylonian OSTs as the bed music. It'd be great. Also, another stupid joke I had. Apollo, a sheep, looking at Dumazid, another sheep, and going, fucking sheep.
I think you actually showed this as a screen cap at some point, or you said your joke in chat, and somebody did do an edit of it somewhere on the Discord.
Oh, did they? I didn't see the edit. Son of a bitch. I'll have to go look
somewhere in... I think it was in normal?
Was it in normal?
FGO English chat.
What? Hang on, give me like one moment. I'm gonna go see if I can... Our English chat has been popping off a bit because, we're in the midst of story and stuff. But let me see if I can...
finishing stuff and posting a little bond ups.
Bond ups, completion notes, level ups. Images.
Oh, I found it.
Oh, you did?
We'll forward it to the Patreon chat. This thing to do. It's not exactly. It's pretty close. When it tells me what day it was. It was on Monday.
This is pretty good.
For the people at home who are not in our Patreon chat right now and don't want to dig through our old chat to find it, it's the old, put the pipe in your bicycle joke, but it's, Apollo putting Dumazid in his bicycle spoke and then being like, fucking sheep. I mean, if you're going to star it, you should go back to the original post and star that. Yeah, click on the time you can there. I'll start.
Yeah. So, Pip 8. One dull flight on a sheep's back, and we arrive at the oasis. And by arriving, I mean Dumazid literally drops us from his back and flees to safety. No matter though, must be a day that ends with Y. Cuckoo powers up to our next ascension. We land with a crash and challenge Nikki to another fight. Apparently, we almost gave Nikki a heart attack with that landing. Again, it's one of those things I'm talking about. Once this is all over, I don't think the Master can go back to a normal life. You've just become so desensitized to falling from great heights that you just fucking combat roll out of them now. How many times have I fallen through the air, from a great height in the air, that it's just another day.
We don't take a lot of plot naps this time, but I do at least have a couple of comments about us falling into darkness, because we do that a lot. But there's a fight, and say it with me one more time, chat. Her one weakness, a giant woman.
Honestly, there is nothing more to say here.
Yeah, you support Cuckoo unlocks her NP, which is she activates her giant woman form and punches the enemies. That's it.
After the fight, if you want to call it that, everyone is shocked to see that Cuckoo is the giant energy woman that slapped the Stormborder earlier. Tepu immediately apologizes for the goddess and threatens 100 years dungeon.
Which goes back to our talk, but that's why I wanted to bring up their mythological relationship, because Tepu's just a guy. He's not a priest anymore, but he's still I'm terribly sorry for my stupid idiot goddess.
But Cuckoo explains that she went for the preemptive strike because Cuckoo thought Chaldea would be like David and not listen to her. She knows better now. Arash is back to being Arash, and we got our third command seal back. She immediately goes into her gloom mode and explains that she can't leave the boundary as she has become its guardian, just like the ones before her. Like the others, though, she is ready to help us in our moment of need. So we move to Section 14, Terminal Observatory Metzatitlon. There's a second T in there. Well, third T, I should say. There's 3 T's in here!
Metzatitlon, the lake over the moon.
So Pip 1. Shahakwi to the Golden Sea of Trees. Another wonderful zoom and punch and shot revealing the new areas of Mictlan. That night, Da Vinci recaps the event of the day for Goldov, stunning him as normal. He is also shook by the news that Cuckoo is the giant woman of light, but he'll trust his field off team.
He does tell us to hit Cuckoo with the old smoke bomb if she starts acting unwise, though. Bust out our pocket sand and run.
After the call, we take a moment to praise the director, who, while not the perfect man for the job, does his best and has our interests at heart. It's time to set up camp for the night, and Tepu asks Nitocris to keep an eye out. Nitocris, not fully paying attention, sends out some spirits and attracts the attention of some mindless Danos. Luckily, we have regained our last command spell, so we can summon properly once again. Though we have our command seals back, we still can't use them to juice up servants. And to recap, we had to give them up in order to come back to life. It seems that Camazotz is our prime suspect at first, but we're pretty sure it's not him even if we can't remember who we made the deal with. That means that Camazotz most likely got them from the person that took them. Anyway, time's to crash. We make some sleeping arrangements and offer to let Cuckoo stay in our tent, much to Mass's shock. But she decides to sleep on the ground like Tepu, lest she lose control. Someone just do waggling eyebrow gif right here.
I'm pretty sure if you find the right explanations, you could make Cuckoo's eyebrows waggle.
Pip 2. Golden Sea of Trees to Metzatitlan. Titlan. Arriving at the area, we find that it is pretty much a nature preserve of proper human history's Cenozoic era. Cuckoo says that's a given because the Mala has no influence here, nor does the Supercorn. It is explained that this area was born from the planet's inner sea, which Da Vinci says is the planet's reality marble, so to speak. The inner sea is like the planet's heart, and like a heart, it controls multitudes. Some parts of the heart remain close to humanity, while others have a couple bones to pick with humans. The example used, Avalon, is a facet that prefers nature and distances itself from humanity.
And I do think you can actually, have a dialogue box to be, bring up Avalon, because, we've been there.
We've been there. There are also creatures which are feelers that are born from the inner sea and make their way to the surface. But for whatever reason, if they do not return, they can manifest as elementals, fairies, or even divine spirits. This is not the only way said creatures can manifest, though, so it's all confusing at times. Certain elementals can only be born from the inner sea, inheriting the Earth's earliest memories, and they tend to dream of the surface, acting as the planet's brain. These are known as archetypes. The person we are about to meet is an archetype and an incredible recorder of history. We wonder if they are a Dano or a human, so we turn to Tepu, who used to be a researcher here. He explains that Jiquik? I'm gonna go with Jiquik. I like Jiquik. Isn't like other Danos, but since Miklon is already like the planet's inner sea being closed off from the planet's surface, the archetype must be suffocating. Mesh does a here, and so do I. Tepu sounds like he knows Jiquik and seems to understand man quite a bit. But rather than explain it, Tepu says a picture is worth 1,000 words and says we'll get it when we meet her. He also warns us against spooking her, otherwise she'll become useless for a couple days. We enter the observatory, and while it's a lovely view, we don't see Jiquik right away. Tepu immediately calls out for Jiquik to stop hiding and to greet her guests, and a voice calls out to Big Brother Tepu that she was gonna, and from them water emerges. A red-eyed, pale-skinned Dano. I just have a note here. Yep.
We're doing a thing, chat.
Da Vinci excitedly explains that Jiquik is a Diplodocus, one of the largest known herbivore dinosaurs, except that she's even bigger than the ones. I don't know why I typed pens, but
You probably missed the O for a P, and then Google was just like, you mean pen, right? Not puddin'?
True. Than the ones from proper human history. Jiquik is pleased and asks for introduction. Turns out she can see all the way to the second strandum from here, but can't hear that far. After introduction, Mash immediately asks why Jiquik calls Tepu Big Brother, something that Tepu immediately scoffs at, as she is 6 million years old, while he is only 1,000. Jiquik explains that Tepusu would constantly come by unannounced and boss her around and scold her. Nito and Cuckoo have hushed words and say that Tepu is totally a tsundere Big Brother type.
I also love, by the way, that, it's so... it's both incredibly in character, but also she never gets to do this, that Mash is immediately like, oh, what's this? Do you have something going on here, Tepu? What's your relationship like?
I didn't write it down, but it should be noted that Jiquik really likes Mash. Where are we? Here we are. Tepu says to get on with the question asking, and we asked Jiquik about David. Long story short, David showed up almost immediately after his arrival a year ago and asked for the secrets of Miklon, explained in 5 minutes or less, which he did. We wonder why Jiquik gave David the information he wanted. After all, he was a human from proper human history and a crypter. Jiquik explains that the mindset of Dano that is to treat everyone equally, you must in fact treat everyone equally. Special ones get no special treatment. It's for this exact reason that she gave the answers he wanted, and the reason she'll give us the answers we want. I didn't write this down because this goes along to my personal philosophy, but treating everyone equally is actually, as much as people try to espouse it and say that's, what we should do, that's actually really, really fucking hard. Personal biases, personal experiences, opinions, all that stuff leads, you to, coming up with, personal biases that you may or may not know that you're acting upon. So to actually like treat any and everyone, exactly equal, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. That's why I phrased it as to treat everyone equally. You actually have to treat everyone equally.
Yeah. And actually, like a philosophy thing, this is the difference between when people talk about the difference between equality and equity.
Yeah.
Equality is you treat everyone the same regardless of circumstances. Equity is providing each person what they need specifically to be successful or to advance themselves. And that's a thing that comes up a lot, like in modern society, because like arguably, like elements of most modern democracies have some type of equality built in on paper. They are supposed to treat everyone equally. Obviously, we know, just like he said, actually overcoming your inherent biases and allowing the human mechanism of society to like treat everyone equally is really tough. But the principles of equality are spread everywhere. But we've reached a different step in our philosophical thinking to be like, wait, treating everybody exactly the same for good or ill doesn't always work, because we recognize that many people, in fact, are different. Each of us has our own, unique needs and requirements and foibles. So even if you treat everyone equally, that will not mean that everyone achieves equal success.
Yeah.
But the Danos are super big on equality, and I think I tucked a note later when this question comes back up, but this was what I was referring to last week when I said for Lucky to remember something, because you actually completely spelled out what their philosophy was before Jaquique actually said it out loud when we were talking about Vakub.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like...
No, when I got to that, I definitely had that moment. I was like, oh...
Yeah, like that's... You caught on very, very well that is actually kind of their... I don't want to say problem, though it does cause them problems. It is the Dinos' unique way is that they are a truly equality-driven society. Everyone is treated the same. Even their, whether they're friends, enemies, strangers, whatever.
I do think it's very bittersweet.
Yeah. Well, and the bullet point a couple ago was like talking about how the Danos are like the version of humanity that Wodaime wanted, right? Like,
yeah,
each human would become unto a god, which means that they would be able to basically have unlimited oomph to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They would not compare themselves. They would not desire things. Actually, that was a comment that was on last week's show, should have mentioned. Somebody had a really good theory for why Foe doesn't want to come down here.
Oh, shit, that's right. I meant to write about that, because you commented about it.
Yeah, I brought it up.
Yeah.
Because I replied to it, because they had a funny idea, too. But, no, that's actually a really good one. Even if he's not being, like, evil about it, Foe probably hates this place, because he is the former beast of comparison.
Yeah.
This is a society that does not have, where the prime species, anyway, does not have comparison. So, like, there's, like, nothing for him here. But I do like that person wrote that they just imagine that he's doing, he's out surfing lava on the surface, and I'm like, I'd love to imagine Foe doing a sweet kickflip with Pridwin. Because that, spoilers, but the fucker shows up in the last pip when it's all done. He comes back, and I'm like, you son of a bitch, where were you? Huh? Where were you hiding?
Yeah, because it's not like he can just fuck off places, because our base is literally the storm border now. He has to be somewhere.
Does he just, because we know he can race shift, does he just throw himself in a coffin and go somewhere? He just pushes the buttons and is like, beam my ass back to Avalon. This shit sucks.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he can just go back to Avalon on his own.
Then it's just the game of cat and mouse before Merlin fucking throws him out again.
Probably. Like I said, I think it was explained that Foe finds, I want to say Chaldea, but being around us and Mash, to be good. Didn't have to worry about being, the beast of comparison and whatnot. I should double check that line.
Yeah, Foe definitely likes us and likes Mash, because he gave up all his beast juice for it. But
one of the Master Mission lines this time is Mash talking about how Foe is riding around on our head, and asks how that is, and we're just like, heavy. And she's like, oh. It's great. All right, back to this recap, though.
Yeah, we got a lot.
We got a lot.
Right, we're talking about them. Jaquique told David everything.
Yep. So Teppo has to step away to prepare for the Popol ritual. It seems that he is bothered by something. Suffering eating. Da Vinci decides to ask the questions and starts by trying to figure out what exactly happened here. Shaquique explains the deviation in the meteorite and how the supercorn arrived earlier, then kept Pangea together. That let the dinosaurs continue to flourish. Excuse me. The fourth extinction event did happen, though. In response, the supercorn created Biosphere 3, the subterranean world, and used the energy that would normally let the Earth recover, and adapt it into maintaining it. Luckily, the planet is pretty chill about this as long as life is flourishing, but Shaquique then mentions that there is another invader that is much more suitable to the term. It was responsible for the Lostbelt's third extinction event, and the reason for Mictlan's creation, a planet-eater monster from the Oort cloud, which also arrived earlier than it did Oort. So, I went and decided to go do some more research on this, but whether or not Oort is actually type Mercury is a mystery even within the lore. Its origin is the Oort cloud, and it did answer the planet's cry. And it has names like that include the Spider of Mercury, but Mercury's question mark ultimate one. So when someone asks, is Oort actually type Mercury, you say yes, but actually no. Or no, but actually yes. Par for the course in Nossoverse.
And as I was rereading this today, I wrote this note. I'm coming to you in the future. This Lostbelt doesn't clarify this at all. It does not help. We learn a shitload about Oort and how it works. None of it explains the type Mercury thing. I don't even think they mention the phrase type Mercury or type Oort with two O's here. I think if I understand how an archetype or ultimate one is supposed to work, Oort can't be from the Oort cloud itself because that's not a singular planetary body. There shouldn't be enough of a planetary oomph for it to be the ultimate species of. So that may just mean that, Oort is from Mercury, but decided it sucked there, so it's just hiding in the Oort cloud until Gaia said something. And then, as we know, Oort just fucked up the space-time continuum for when Gaia was calling out in pain and decided to show up very early. Especially honestly, this Oort showed up millions of years too early.
I'm gonna be real, man. If you actually had to hang out on Mercury or whatever, that's way too fucking hot. I don't care what you say. Just being close to the sun, no, don't want it.
No, Mercury as a planetary body sucks ass. I think the only worst place to go is Venus, and that's because it's a rampant greenhouse effect hotbox. The planet surface of Venus is literally hell. If you've ever looked at a picture of hell, that's what Venus looks like. The atmospheric pressure is multiple ocean depths under all the thick clouds. It's constantly volcanic, and it rains sulfuric acid. It sucks down there. I do think, though, that technically, because Mercury is what they call a cannonball, it's just a ball of rock and iron, the day side of Mercury is hotter than Venus. It is hotter than hell itself, and there is no protection from the cosmic radiation.
Get burnt.
So yeah, if I was Oort and I was from Mercury, I was the ultimate life form of Mercury, I would be like, man, this place sucks. I'm gonna go to the Oort cloud. It's cold. It's nice and chilly out there. Yeah. Sorry, somebody also in our Patreon chat had a great one, is saying their favorite version of that. Yeah, you ask, is Oort type Mercury? Yesn't?
Yesn't. So, if Oort arrived early, how did it not destroy everything? Good question, Da Vinci. Answer is, it actually did. Apparently, upon crashing, Oort did die, but 60 million years later, just as the Danos were becoming enlightened, it became active again and caused the fourth extinction event. This is when Shaquique was born. Also, apparently when Oort died, it didn't die in a way that humans can understand.
This part at least does actually get explained later.
Yeah, Master is right. I need a physical timeline for this.
Oh, yeah, no. This is even me when I'm writing this down. I had a note of okay, I'm not transposing all of this, because I know Lucky will do it later, and you, in writing these notes, had several, theories and comments about, this plot going around. So I'm some things we learn are correct, other things Da Vinci is wrong. We gotta unpack it all, but thank God there is a physical timeline, because, God, there's so much going on, and when we talk about that in a few bullet points, there's a lot of millions of years involved in this.
It's true. So, during this time, all of it banded together to battle Oort and succeeded. But since Oort doesn't stay dead, it's bound to revive again, and Da Vinci infers that it is going to be the fifth extinction event that will happen soon. With all that information, Nitocris asked Mash to make a concise summary, which Mash is happy to do. I have a note here. Oh, thank the gods. And I will read it verbatim. Mictlan's history. 300 million years ago, the Lostbelt begins. The Mala falls to Pangea on a meteorite and stabilizes with a network of plant roots. For the next 100 million years, Earth is a paradise ruled by the dinosaurs. 66 million years ago, the third mass extinction event. The Mala detect the meteorite, Oort, heading for Earth. The Mala create the Midland underground along with an artificial sun. This is in red, by the way. They evacuate all life from the surface to Midland. I also have a note here. Why is this red?
I think we were playing something at the time too, so you said that out loud. And I'm like, don't worry.
The meteorite Ort punches through the surface to land in Miklong, embedding itself in the lowest stratum. The impact causes it to stop functioning. Actually, I just realized that. Does this mean that fucking the fucking super corn predicted where Ort would land and then built Mala to fucking like contain it?
I would assume so. Like, they built it directly under it because the implication is that, especially once you actually get to see the end of the tube, is Ort punches through the top end where we enter from, flies down past all the stratum, and slams into the bottom.
Yeah. So it's like I'm like, now that I'm reading this, it's like, wait, no, they planned for him to land in Mala and do stuff.
They built a bullseye for him to land on. I mean, at the very least, if you're going to build a super cylinder and then you're going to put all your dinos on the inside of it, being like, all right, instead of having it like blow through all our layers upon layers of land filled with dinos, what if we have it just miss them all and go down the middle?
Yeah, no, I guess that makes sense. They basically built a way to minimize the damage and, well, contain the threat, for lack of a better word, and put themselves in a prime position to combat said threat. Yeah, that's the way to do it, I suppose. Sorry, Lucky's like connecting some weird ass dots right now, but I do not have the information to confirm or deny these things. Okay,
I'm
here
not
we
seeing nothing yet.
The meteorite ore punches through the surface and land in Miklong, abandons itself in the lowest stratum, where there's supposedly a giant fucking evil tree. The impact causes it to stop functioning. 20 million years ago, Preconsul, 8 precursors of humanity, are born in Miklong as well. This is completely new information. What the fuck? I didn't write that down, but I probably should have. Preconsul is also in red. 6 million years ago, the fourth mass extinction event, Ort reactivate. Shaquique is born, Ort is shut down. 1 year ago, the Cryptor leads a cultural invasion, which the Nanos welcome. Ooh, excuse me. That's the summary, which is very nice. It should be noted that a couple of points were highlighted in red. Shaquique says those points in particular are important. Da Vinci is excited to have the same information as David, but Shaquique says that isn't what David asked for. He already figured that out. Da Vinci is shaken once again. Turns out he asked if the sun had ever gone out. This is important to the Ocelot unit, to the Ocelot unit's obsession with keeping the sun going. Turns out that yes, the sun did go out around the same time that Ort resumed function. That is when the Kanan people died out. The Kanan people were humans, like actual humans. While weaker than Danos, marveled at engineering. Near the end of their kingdom, they built a ship similar to the Stormboarder that in fact was the only reason that Miklong was able to fight against Ort. Kanan warriors even accepted modifications that made them invulnerable and fought to the last. They pushed Ort to the lowest stratum and sunk it in magma. Miklong regained its light, but the cost of victory was the entire kingdom of Kanan. Well, this explains the anodized aluminum at the beginning.
Yeah, they were I don't know how exactly they got so advanced, but the Khan Kingdom were real future advanced people.
Honestly, I think I could see it. Like, humanity as a whole, like, we kind of spread ourselves real fucking quick. Like, around, like, spreading from, like, Africa and stuff and spreading all over. If we were just concentrated in one area and basically had, and had no real plot problems to worry about, we could probably, like, just tinker to our minds content, probably.
And we do know that the Mala made Miklon super rich in resources.
Yeah.
So the dinos could support themselves.
And there was, like no necessary conflicts or whatever. A lot of innovation is born through conflict, but there's also a lot of innovation just built through just rampant curiosity.
Yeah, I really, because we don't get a good fix on this, I do wonder what the humans of Khan were supposed to be like, because the Mala kind of instilled in the Danos their method of, like, not competing. I don't know if the Khan got the same treatment, but probably?
I would say that they did, because while they might not have been, like, they probably were not the prime species as, the Supercorn picked the Danos over, but they were still creatures of Miklon. They were still something of this world that had intelligence. So I would like to believe that the Mala exerted some influence over them.
Yeah, and at the very least, if they didn't have to because at some point, the sun did go out, so the dinos were all in hibernation. So, like, that means that they didn't have to compete, not that Danos would feel the need to compete with humans anyway. But like they wouldn't feel the need to like fight the Danos for space. They would have had plenty of resources. There would be no scarcity in the way that we understand it to fight over. So yeah, that probably means that they can get a lot of shit done in a lot shorter of a time span.
So turns out there is one Kanan left. Their king, who modified himself to be so strong that he has survived all this time alone and ain't gone insane from it. He now flies around as the Bat of Death. It's Camazotz.
Yes. Which should mean that Camazotz is a homegrown myth. He should be a genuine hero or god like Kukulkan. But because nobody remembers him, it's not quite the same way. And this does, I think, come back later as to why he is the way he is. But the Danos, like, barely understand him. They do not remember Khan. This was a comment that Tepu had earlier of like, oh yeah, we repurposed their architecture for Chichen Itza, but basically no other Danos cares about this. So like none of them, bother to learn about or remember the history of Khan, even though they fought to the last man to keep their world alive. A very important thing to talk about. Camazotz he's gone a little crazy.
Actually, now that I think about, not like in our Patreon chat, Robin is saying, weigh in on this, but trying not to spoiler things, is that the people of Kanan were definitely not influenced by the Mala in any way. And actually, now that I think you mentioned that, no. Like, I'm not entirely sure, but, like, what's happening, like, right now in the story and how people are reacting, like, I don't know, like, I think I might understand why the Kanan maybe were not influenced by Mala, because they actually fought against Orts.
And there's a few later. I think it's important to remember that technically, not even Jaquik was around for these events yet. She was born after they turned the sun back on and all the Danos woke up. Well, not all the Danos, but like 20% of them. So we are technically getting secondhand information based on what the Mala remember, and what Tepu's figured out. But yeah, like what somebody said. Yeah, the Danos were asleep for the final battle. So because the sun was out, so they weren't around to see Khan. But also, like we said, the Danos are not a naturally inquisitive or explorative species. They just kind of like, because they're so powerful individually, they just kind of like go along, kind of just doing whatever. None of them, I think, except Tepu, have ever bothered to express like curiosity about like, hey, where does this city thing come from? Where is Chichen Itza? What are the ruins of Khan like? What's going on here? So yeah, like Kukulkan, like I said, he should be a heroic spirit, for lack of like a hero, like not even a spirit, because he canonically cannot die. He is immortal. But he is a capital H hero. He defeated a monster, but because he is now like alone with the entirety of his dead people on his back, and none of the Danos know about him, and none of them seem to like. Again, they just kind of like know to fear him because he's crazy and he drinks their blood sometimes. It seems like none of the Danos like actually went to be like, "Yo, Camazotz, what's your dealio?" Not that he would respond to them intelligently either, but we're talking about that's another bit of exposition that's even further down the line. But yeah, no, it's a very funny situation we find ourselves in about Cammy, and it's like, yeah, that's very interesting.
Well, I'm double checking the notes here. Apparently, like the Danos were like there at the end of the Kanan civilization, because apparently, like that's about the time where the Danos were becoming enlightened. They were not enlightened at the time, because I double checked here. It's like, because I wrote here specifically, Ort did die, but 60 million years later, as the Danos were becoming enlightened and became active again and caused the fourth extinction event. That's when the Jaquik was born. So the Kanan civilization was around when the Danos became the Danos, but from what this reads on, they did not have a long history together, it seems like.
And I think I can say, based on information later, they probably coexisted, but I don't think that, based on what we learn later about the humans of this Lostbelt, the Danos probably would not have noticed them until after they went asleep.
Yeah, no, because
this is another big thing with some other stuff, but the Danos don't really pay much attention to non-Danos species around them.
Yeah.
Because they don't have to.
The pre-consuls like showed up 20 million years ago, so they were kicking around with the Danos, just the Danos didn't care. or like even really register them. And then the 6 million years ago is when the sun actually turned off. So the Danos were around with the Kanon before the sun turned off, but it just wasn't until like that point that after the sun turned off, basically everything went to sleep. There was nothing there going on. Yeah, because the sun went out during the Ord attack. It seems like, or God, this is still confusing to me actually.
There is follow-up.
Yeah, because it's.
I think, like I said, the important thing to remember is that while Jaquique is supposed to be an archetype and have inherited and specifically what the Earth understands as going on, what Gaia understands is going on. She wasn't created until about 6 million years ago, so she wasn't alive for some parts of this.
Yeah. I'll have to actually probably read through it to actually get my facts straight, because I'm trying to remember bits and pieces, and I'm not doing it well. Like, this is why I started taking notes in the first place, so I didn't have to try to remember from memory.
And also, hey, by the way, in case you are curious, the proconsul is a real mammal. It's a genus of primates from roughly 21 to 17 million years ago, during the Miocene, sometimes known as Proconsul africanus, and they are definitely seems to be, based on fossil evidence, an ancestor to chimpanzees and maybe ancestors to all of the rest of the great apes, which would include us eventually. So they are like one of the first primate-type mammals that we can say is, part of the human stuff.
So, Pip 3. Apparently it's going to take some time before Jaquique can show us what Davis wanted, so in the meantime, Tepu has asked us to clear out some mindless Danos around the area. The ritual tends to attract them.
I should have put a note here, but I feel like they only put a couple of random mindless Danos battles in here just because they were like, okay, we have to break up this exposition somehow.
Afterwards, we talked to Cuckoo about how she is similar to Jaquique, even going as so far to say that she is archetype McLawn. Cuckoo makes a face about it, but agrees. Apparently, before David arrived, Cuckoo was more of an ephemeral force, being literally the wind in the teachings of the sun. But one day she just popped out of Chichen Itza, absorbed all the knowledge of common sense, and then promptly stole Tepu's clothes. Just, Seems like Tepu has a knack for being close to powerful yet annoying women. Like he's a protagonist or something. Speaking of Tepu, they speak about his relationship with Jaquique a bit. They seem close, but Tepu is obviously uncomfortable. Cuckoo explains that Tepu actually put himself into isolation as a punishment, as he tried and failed to free Jaquique from her duty. Now he just spends his time studying death, but why though? Cuckoo doesn't answer. It comes up a few times that while Cuckoo is literally only 1 year old, Jaquique has had the mentality of a 1 year old for over 6 million years. As a last scene, we see Nitocris asking Jaquique about how Camazotz used the command seals to alterize the servants, and how she can do the same. It seems what Aresh has said to her has gotten to her. Pip 4. So, the Pulpball ritual is ready, and Jaquique explains that while normally she can observe everything in the 2nd to 8th stratum, David has been the exception. He is a void of darkness, observable only to time. So she will show us that part through the aid of powerful herbs, aka a drug trip. So, at the observatory, David got his answers, asked Jaquique if she needed anything, and let her know that he repaired the sluice. He then ran into Camazotz, but something is weird here. David uses a command spell and overcomes Camazotz, who calls him a hero that has the right to enter Kalakmul. Camazotz still demands a fee here, though, and wants to know about proper human history and mythology. He seems quite sane at this moment. I have a note here. Oh no, I'm starting to like him.
Yes, Camazotz becomes fascinated with myths and asks the boy about some stuff.
Mm-hmm. So, David reaches Ord and notes that it's not dead, just out of fuel, and with a few repairs, it will start right up again. He mentions that the cosmic rays emitting from the bottom would stop in a year, and he'll be able to turn then. He'll use that time to make sure that he is ready and probably summon the servants. He picks Tez. Very specifically, he says he picks Tez. But also note, so Ors is just a car or machine that needs parts or fuel. Because I was thinking about this. Conceptually, a car can, run and stuff, but it has no fuel, it cannot run, therefore it is dead. But if you just put fuel in it, you can start it up again.
Yes, this is a very good analogy. It will actually be used later. I brought this up when saying that we explained more that Ort does not die in the same way that we pure biologicals die. It can cross that boundary back.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, when your car runs out of gas, what do you say it does? It died. The engine stops functioning. There's no more power draw. But if you put gas back in the engine, or battery, or whatever, it can run again.
Yeah. Well, again, this is just in that line of, Ord is just fucking incomprehensible, in a way.
Yeah, its system of biology is very different from what we understand as biological. Because it is a little plant-like itself, but it's also kind of crystalline and mechanical. I definitely think Ort lives up to its Ultimate One description later when they start talking about, like, its internal functions and shit. Like, this is a real peak life form. It is supposed to be, you know, the whatever planet Ort is actually from, it is supposed to be the strongest, most perfect being from it. Ort do that. Like, there is, I do not think we have seen in this setting a more optimized life form.
Optimized. So we see Little Tez, who is called Blue Tez, speaking to Black Tez. Decide to each do their own thing. See change to Mexico City with Black Tez talking about his new city and how the Ocelot unit are ready to go. Tez informs David that the underground channel to Ort is ready and they'll feed him energy through the Danos' hearts. In about a year's time, the repairs will be more than done. David mentions that he isn't concerned with the other Lostbelts, he has his own obligation, but does say it's not too late to change the plan. Tez, though, is down to clown.
Oh, also, I should say, I forgot to put a note here as well, but yes, this is in the Wanted Tezcatlipoca if you want more, but Blue Tezcatlipoca is Huitzilopochtli, the Blue Hummingbird, which is one of the authorities that Talak uses.
Mm-hmm.
But Huitzilopochtli is a god who is supposed to have invented war and oversees war, but is not like a god of conflict in the same way that Tezcatlipoca, like Black Tezcatlipoca, is. Also, to the Aztecs, Huitzilopochtli was a very minor god that got very large because they entrusted him with basically the myth of how they left Azaltan, the place of seven caves, and moved to the Mexica Valley. Mm-hmm. So the like original ancestors of the Mexica and the Aztec peoples and lots of other local tribes were supposed to be in whatever Azaltan is, and then they had to leave, and so Huitzilopochtli guided them to their new home in the central Mexico region. So, you know, Blue Tezcatlipoca becoming king of the dinosaurs, take that however you will. But yeah, my second note here is that I'm very glad, like, even though there's so much stuff going on here, we've got a truly neutral observer.
Mm-hmm.
Jaquique is like, literally says, oh, I told David because nobody's special here, so I'll tell you the exact same like, as him, you know? And while, as you can see from the fact that we had several discussion points about it, there are still some questions that are unanswered, there are some factors that are unclear, we can still roughly lay out what's going on in this Lostbelt in fairly plain chronological terms. Like, you know, we start at the beginning, here's how this is a what if, you know, we swapped around some meteor orders, and we had some other weird shit go on, so we had, you know, Hollow Earth full of dinosaurs, a Lost World situation going on. Yeah! And even when we get to the end, it's like, okay, here's David. David showed up here. David did this and this and this in this order. And while, like, it'll take us quite a while before we figure out why the fuck he wants to wake up Ort, besides just his stated goal of destroying the planet, this flashback does a very good job of being, okay, he showed up, he went to Jaquique immediately, he went to the bottom after that, after he learned some stuff, you know, presumably cleared Camazotz's underworld, went to the bottom, saw some shit, was like, okay, summon a guy, and then he's like, all right, my servant Tezcatlipoca, you're taking care of everything? And Tezcatlipoca's like, yeah, man, the plane's in motion, it's all good. Look at my Ocelome, they're cool. Look at my city, it's neat. And I love that David is like, hey, Tez, you sure about this? This plan's wild. And Tez is like, hell yeah, brother.
I think he does call David brother at times.
Tez does seem like the kind who would be like that. Like, he's very casual when he feels like it. And also, like, there's almost no fighting in this. There's something very immersive as I'm just sitting here tapping my phone with my ears in, because we just flow through multiple OST tracks for different bits. Like, we set up our different expositional themes. So, like I said, all of this is, like, obviously it's quite a lot of text to write down and comment on and digest. But when I was reading it, it flows very well as a scene, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it all flows together. But we have one, as always, one last little thing.
Yeah. So we come off our drug high and, Pip 5.
Yeah.
We come down off our drug high and recap what we saw. We understand a bit better about what David is trying to accomplish, but not why he is trying to accomplish it. We consider trying to rally the Danos to attack Mexico City, but Jaquique interrupts. She explains that we don't have to fight David. He might fail, and even if he succeeds, death comes from all things. It's part of the natural order. It could even be considered wrong to go against the natural order. Lucky has a note here. I semi-agree with this, but in my opinion, there is a difference between letting fate choose my end and letting someone else choose my fate.
Yes, this is a philosophical discussion that we will bring up multiple times throughout this Lostbelt. It's kind of one of the themes we're writing about, but the Danos are very chill about extinction because of their, mentality of special treatment. They're just like, well, if we all die, that's how it is. That's just, the natural order of things. Extinctions happen and new species move on, and, we'll keep going. The Mala will do something else. But at the same time, like you said, just because extinction is normal doesn't mean that you should let somebody else decide it's your time to go extinct. Because clearly, Ort would probably not be waking up at this exact moment unless David had summoned Tezcatlipoca, who organized the Osalome to feed it Danos hearts and all of their delicious, delicious life energy. Like, that's clearly an outside context issue.
Yeah, no. Like, if the giant meteor comes and it's gonna hit Earth, I'm probably gonna be like, well, that's it. Goodbye, everybody. And I'll probably, get drunk and watch the meteor fall and kill us all. If someone is going to try and, actually fucking end my life, no, I'm going to fight back tooth and nail. It's like, no, fuck you. You don't get to choose. But, despite all that philosophy, regardless, even if they succeed or fail, Miquelon is doomed anyways. The sun will reach critical mass soon and explode. Cuckoo seems distracted by something.
Yeah, and I wrote my note down here, first of all, again, despite how, beautiful and peaceful Miquelon is, it's doomed. It's literally doomed. It was always doomed. They're running out of sun.
Mm-hmm.
So great. Kind of explains, I think, a lot of the Danos' efforts, but I just felt like when this comes up finally and is actually mentioned to us, because nobody mentioned this to us yet, I'm just like, it's that classic joke, and prom is tomorrow!
Did they ever explain why the sun is going out?
They said critical mass, so it's running out of fuel. The Mala could only give it juice for so many years based on what they had, so unless they can come up with a new source of nuclear fuel, the reaction that makes their artificial sun work will stop. Which in normal suns, means that they,
Nova?
They go nova, they explode. Even if this one's artificial, presumably it, ejecting all of its, outer layers to fuse heavier and heavier elements will be bad.
Even crazier space dust.
I asked the question, were the rituals to the sun not working, or does that not count? Yes, I think that was technically, through a technicality, Tezcatlipoca was not being straight with the Osalome.
No.
Technically, the thing they're doing could, in a roundabout way, be related to the extinguishing of the sun for reasons that'll be more clear later. There's a whole lot of process for, again, why Miquelon is the way it is and how Ort got to be here and all that stuff. But their sacrifices, I think, are the actual flow of that energy is going to
Ort.
Yeah, Ort. It's an underground channel that goes all the way to the lowest stratum.
Yeah,
technically, if they're sacrificing to the sun, if that was a normal process, Kukulkan should be getting that juice.
Yeah,
and would probably have noticed. But Kukulkan doesn't lay all her cards out on the table basically ever. So I don't know, but I feel like she would mention, because she does not seem like the type of god that would like human or Danos sacrifice. I think she would notice if she was receiving energy from human sacrifice or from intelligent species.
Actually, the
sacrifice.
fact that Cuckoo Khan doesn't speak against the sacrifice probably should have tipped us off in the first place, now that I think about it.
Yeah, as the agent of Mala, Cuckoo is kind of a very live and let live person herself. She, I think it's the opposite of something we said about Tezcatlipoca off mic in the pregame, where Tez specifically says he's on everybody's side. Cuckoo is actually not on anybody's side. She is supposed to be a neutral observer, but because she is her own intelligent person, she's kind of bad at it sometimes.
Well, they do explain this a little bit. We will get into it.
There's reasons for it, but she is like I said, she is supposed to be more neutral about it, similar to Jaquique, but her own initiatives, she doesn't necessarily act like she's actually being neutral some of the time, but she is technically still being neutral.
Also, side note, I didn't write this down, but I would have, way back in part 1 when we were learning about Mexico City and their rituals, I had a thought that these rituals, the ritual sacrifice, was not actually being used for, actually powering the sun. I actually thought that the ritual was something for more to extinguish the sun or something. So I was kind of right, but I was kind of off. and one of those things, and that, like I said, the ritual was not being used to power the sun, but to power Ort, which is probably going to turn off the sun, probably. I don't know. Maybe he'll eat it. Slurp that shit up.
Or it is just the world's strongest, longest bendy straw. You cannot grasp the true form.
So, we move on. Here
also,
comes...
Actually, I just realized something. I want to bring this up about the fact that the sun is exploding. This is like, that means that this is like our second Lostbelt that is actually, even within the simulated fantasy of like, because, you know, obviously this timeline was pruned because, as we brought up, the Danos, like, got enlightened 6 million years ago and haven't changed at all. So that's a shitload of wasted time on a cosmic scale, right? They are just existing, doing nothing. But also, even if you give them the fantasy of persisting to this day, they're still doomed. Like, I think the only other Lostbelt that was like that was Britain. Like, that place was the Avalon Le was so cursed that it was absolutely not going to make it to modern day, and only kept existing because Morgan basically forced it to exist, turning it into a lost world, as she called it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, when Barrow originally got there, there was nothing there.
Yeah, it was literally just like a very small island of Britain and the infinite ocean, because in a world where the fairies didn't forge Excalibur and then killed Fluffy, they would not have existed. They would have just eventually died out and had nothing.
Oh man, LB7 is good, but I still think I want to see LB6 animated first.
I would want to see them animated first, but I definitely want to also see LB7 animated for...
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff, but especially some of the stuff in the close is just, like, begging for some big budget shit.
Honestly, I also need to see the Dino 11 animated. This is important to me for reasons.
It's very important. But I was about to say, specifically, I would like to say, is Studio Trigger busy?
Trigger?
Because for reasons that people who finished the Lostbelt will know, I think I would want, if possible, Trigger to take a crack at this first. This specific Lostbelt.
That could be fun. I know UFO Table is hella busy. They're hella fucking busy. Oh, yeah. They got like 6 movies to produce.
Yeah, they're super locked in.
I think it's like 6 movies and a long form anime project.
Yeah, God knows when those are coming out. And, like, I know that production-wise, like, Strange Fake is taking forever. I think the season of Strange Fake doesn't start until, like, fucking April.
Yeah, but that's being done by A1, so...
Yeah.
But A1 is also hella busy, but their own shit.
Yeah. But, like LB6 super deserves an animated series, and I'd love to see them take a crack at it. But 7 also is, like, man, there's a lot of stuff.
Also, yes, don't try to remember, like, what things have happened and whatnot. If you don't remember us saying them, they probably haven't happened yet. Yeah. Please be careful about spoilers in the chat.
Yes, because we don't know who's leaving and who's going.
Yeah.
But that is the end of Pip 5, and we are finally done with Vestidon.
With all that exposition, we go to Fragments 3. Pip 1.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom,
Vakub meets Excali in a clandestine meeting. Vakub is willing to give up Chichen Itza and the Storm Border, and Excali mentions that Vakub just wants him to deal with his problems. Also mentions that Chichen Itza was built from Kanan wisdom, so the Danos have no right to it anyways. Vakub says that this is absurd, but is willing to be a bit absurd if it prevents the end of the sun. Pip 2.
Meanwhile, at the Legion of Doom,
Kotomina and Yuoga haven't actually left the Lostbelt. They were at Tepu's place while they discussed their next steps. Yuoga doesn't have all her memories, but she understands who she is and what her goals are. So I need a little help here. Like, there have been like little issues popping up here and there all throughout like the chat, the text for me. I actually showed like one.
Yeah, I didn't see the half text box thing you got here, but there are a couple of like text errors and a couple of like dangling tenses they do a couple of times in the script.
Yeah. But Rasputin says a line here that is, and I quote, "We do need to ensure that no future and with Ort destroys the Earth doesn't come to pass." Yes, he says comes to pass. So I'm just like,
Yeah, he says, we do need to ensure that no future where Ort doesn't destroys the Earth doesn't come to pass. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, this is a double negative and generally frowned upon in the English, so I'm not sure if they want Ort to attack or not, especially as they talk about stopping it or absorbing it at leisure.
Based on what I know now, this has to be a typo. I think the only version of the line that makes sense is no future in which Ort destroys the Earth comes to pass, like drop the double negative. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It is Rasputin, so like he could be being weird, but I assume that based on what we've got, the goal of you, Olga, and Rasputin is to avoid Ort cracking the planet like an egg. But they also don't want us normally to just yeet Ort because you, Olga's supposed to eat him for some reason.
Oh, all right. Olga mentions that the only things that can truly threaten her are Cuckoo, Ord, and Camazotz. Kotomina mentions that Camazotz is redacted and should leave him to us. Once more, it will be mentioned that this will not be without casualty, and specifically brings up Koyanskaya.
I feel like Rasputin is just dogging on Koyanskaya because he doesn't like her.
Yeah. Olga then mentions that she is getting weird vibes from this place, and Kotomina just casually dropped that Tepu has mystic eyes of death perception. This should make a click for everyone who was for everyone that was in the know, but maybe not fully aware.
Yeah, in case you didn't get it before, you should get it now. And I do like that Kotomina specifically says that Tepu has a weak version of that mystic.
Let's see here. Olga suddenly gets a reading. The Ocelot unit are surrounding Chichen Itza, and this is bothering her greatly. Kotomina says it is no concern of theirs. They should save their strength for the upcoming, in quotes, Chronicle of Humanity.
Once again, Kotomina seems to know a lot more about what's going on than anybody else figures.
Section 15. Zochi ya Yotul.
Now, note that I wrote down, try saying that 5 times fast. I'm not actually asking Lucky to try and say it 5 times fast.
I'm not.
I don't
Fuck
think
you.
I could say Shochi Yao Yotul?
Zochi ya Yotul. I'm gonna embarrass myself.
Yao Yotul? Yeah, I can read the syllables, but trying to say them all strung together correctly is tough. Anyway, section 15.
So, Pip 1. Shaja Ahwaki to Burnt Maize Field. We try to pass through several areas quickly and have returned to the 5th stratum. We need to return to Chichen Itza to ask for the Danos' help, regardless of the plan we take. Mash is excited to hopefully see Madam President again, and we try to tell her what happened, but it seems she may have already realized. Suddenly, a call from Kadok. The Ocelot unit have attacked the storm border in Chichen Itza. You can hear in the background Gordov yelling at the Dino 11 to stay back, but they are raring to go. We need to get back in a hurry.
Yeah, I wrote this note originally this way, and I want to comment as well, that despite the fact that several times it's brought up that, like, the Danos are not very warlike, they do not have much will to fight, our boys, the Deinonychus 11, are just like, we gotta go, we gotta get out there, we can't stay here.
I mean, they are Deinonychuses. They are supposed to actually be a predator.
It's true. And they are, very aggressive, ball players.
In Chichen Itza, the Ocelot unit are gun the dinos. It still takes 30 of them to slay one dinos, though. Tez has come along with Izzy to watch the show, but Tez can't hold back and decides to join in the fun. Pip 2. Chichen Itza is falling and in ruins. Koyanskaya is on the field, though, aiding Danos and helping them escape. It turns out that Koyanskaya embezzled a third of the supplies meant for the storm border, but we just asked to let it slide. Koyanskaya is tickled to learn this and continues to fight the Ocelot unit. I'm slightly mad that the game didn't let me use my level 100 10-10-10 NP5 Koyanskaya here. They keep telling me I have the option to choose between servants here or there, but not this one. I guess it's because this is supposed to be like the story Koyanskaya, not my Koyanskaya. But at the same time, I'm like, come on, guys.
Yes, this is the story Koyanskaya of Light who showed up to the Lostbelt, separate than the one you summoned. But yeah, it is interesting that like you can pick, or even are forced to pick Mash, Da Vinci, or Habitat, and they're like, oh, you can use the story support one or yours. And I think they even do that with Nitocris as well. The implication that this is that she is Chaldea's Nitocris, so you can use the one if you've got it, her, or you can use the story one. So I guess the implication then is that in the story anyway, Koyanskaya of Light is not canonically registered by Chaldea yet.
Yeah. Koyanskaya is making progress and thinks she can take out about half the squads left, but someone shows up. It's Black Tez, and they think that the bunny is trying to be a good merchant all of a sudden, and that ain't gonna fly.
Yeah, as you might expect, but Tezcatlipoca and Koyanskaya don't get along very well either, because Koyan is not an equal opportunity merchant of death. Fun fact, you might not believe it from how she acts, but Koyanskaya is actually in it for Koyanskaya. So that means that she gets to show favoritism when she likes, and Tez is like, you are fucking up my whole thing. He's also, we should say, Tezcatlipoca's got his game face on now.
Literally. So, Pip 3. Wakachan is having a mental crisis. He's always been a bit different from other Danos, questioning things that others have accepted long ago. This is even more evident as he tries to save the Danos around him. He is rushing for the sign to save some of the too young and too elderly, but knows he will be too late. But with a flash of the rainbow and a crash of thunder, someone saves them. It's Yuo! Here because of a whim and because she hates war crimes more than she hates lizards at the moment. She leaves quickly though, but not quick enough to keep Wakachan from falling for her again.
Yeah, great of her to show up and just be like, no, you cannot kill civilians. Fuck you.
Pip 4, Great Plains. We are approaching Chichen Itza and we can smell the gunpowder in the air. MASH gets a reading of over 1,000 of the Ocelot units, with the numbers dropping. We need to secure the storm border and make sure that little Tez is okay. We send Da Vinci and Nitocris to the border while the rest of us make for the city. Da Vinci gives us the okay to use the Black Barrel if necessary. Just try to avoid any collateral damage. We start fighting our way through Chichen Itza and are making progress, but something is thrown towards us. It is a badly injured Koinskaya, and Tez follows up behind her. Pip 5, Chichen Itza. At the storm border, Talok is pounding on the hull, which is only barely holding up. Professor and Sion are working on an anti-Devang coating with Quet sauce on top, as Quet's once killed Talok. They need to lure her over to the starboard bow to get a shot off, and Kadak and Nemo are about to engage when Da Vinci and Nitocris show up to aid with the plan. Nitocris gets Talok attention once again, but they start trading words. Talok is indeed a servant for proper human history. Nitocris asks Talok to stand down to avoid needless bloodshed, but Talok refuses, saying that Nitocris is just as selfish as she is due to her own history. This gets Talok even more riled up, declaring that she will destroy the storm border even though Tez wants it intact.
So we have a fight. I'm not happy about this one. I guess it's RNG, which, as we know, sucks balls. It's terrible, but I feel like I don't know how this isn't like just a forced leyline stone use. You have to use support servants only, or I mean, you have a limited selection. You're forced into the team comp. And it is Kadok as master. And she's Talok, so she's still doing the AoE stun, so long as which gets negated if Nemo is alive, but if Nemo is dead, it doesn't. And one of her special abilities is to just turn off guts, so she just did that at some point and then killed Nemo, and my entire team got stun locked and I died, so I had to spend a stone. Like, it's bad. It was not good.
Yeah. I somehow managed without a stone, but I couldn't tell you exactly what I did, because it was still kind of super weird. Like, Talok, focus fire Nito down, for several turns, 2 out of 3 of attacks would just be on Nito, and I was just like, okay. But I was still able to keep firing off MPs regularly, got a lot of arts cards. But I will say, they should not have a fight that actively nullifies the few defensive options you have. I think, Talok gets, Surehead at one point, and all the defensive options you had are fucking evades. I'm just like, what do I do?
Yeah, and then she's also got the ability to, she may have the ability to, remove defensive buffs, period, or something which strips the guts. I think everybody on your squad can have a guts or something similar, so, almost everybody you can pick. So it's just one of those things of, cool that she can just turn off this stuff, and she's in her ruler mode, so nobody is doing good damage. So it's just it's just a weird one.
It is a weird one.
People in chat are just saying she just didn't hit Nemo for 6 turns in a row. So yeah, I guess it just boils down to she's got the normal truly randomized AI, so it really is just RNG if she decides to just kill you.
Mm-hmm. So the plan works though, and Talok gets a face full of warhead. Unfortunately, it just hurts her and doesn't put her down. Omega's changing something.
So I'm making a note. Does he say green in that sentence?
I could have swore it was.
Because if he does, that's wrong. Because it's spoilers. We're talking about the 4 colors of Tez. It should be black, white, blue, and red.
You might be right. I might have misremembered because I do not believe that I might have.
It may also be the thing because green and blue are not as distinct in Japanese. They do have separate words, but calling them differently is different. They may have accidentally said that blue was green at some point. I don't know, but there should be the red one.
See, this is why I'm glad I put the pips in, because I can just go there.
Yeah. That's, if everybody wants to know, the res Tezcatlipoca is Shipe Totek, the Great Flayed One. That's why he's red. His skin is missing.
That's slightly terrifying.
No, yeah, he's a little freaky.
Let's see here. So, let me run to section 15 real quick here.
Yeah, sorry, I just was, skimming ahead, and I'm like...
Wait a minute. I believe you. I probably wrote that wrong, but I'm trying to figure out why I wrote that wrong. Oh, yes. The boarhead doesn't hurt her and doesn't put her down. She is ready for round 2 and looks like the gloves are coming off. Nito realizes she may have to undergo the authorization to save anyone, but a screech from the sides and a black form snatches up the locks and shreds her to bits. Literally, they have a fucking thing of just, it's like, it's not actually graphic, but you can tell someone is getting torn to fucking shreds here.
Yeah, they do kind of a obviously it's in the FGO art style, but do kind of like a little, like, cloud of blood spurt animation.
It's a black something, but neither Chris knows exactly who it is. It's Camazotz. Apparently Camazotz likes us enough to keep Talok from killing us, just so he can kill us himself. In fact, it's time for the Underworld Pilgrimage. In fact, the time for the Underworld Pilgrimage will be soon, so they'll all come by their place. And with that invitation sent, skedaddles.
Just imagining him, being like, as he flies back off to the underworld.
He would whoop, 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 whoop.
He's just a weird little guy. Actually, that's incorrect. He's a weird big guy. Like, even in his, like, normal animation, when he's not being that giant black blob, he's, like, still a big man. Hell, he was a giant ghost earlier.
Let's see, 4 by each count direction. Nope, you're right. It says red, blue, black, and white. Red, blue, black, and white, yeah. I think I probably got confused because I probably wrote black, white, blue, and then I was all like, wait a minute. Because I didn't write it in the order that it was given to me.
Yeah, I don't know if the order is supposed to be a certain way. So, yeah. Alright, yes, red.
Yeah, okay. Return to materials.
Which I
yeah, so my bad there.
Technically, in the fight we're about to talk about, when Tez uses his NP, he sometimes says that he is both the black Tezcatlipoca and the red one. He's a scary guy.
He's a scary guy. Ah, Pip6. And Chichen Itza, the world has gone grayscale. Black Tez is here to kick ass. He explains the 4 Tez system, with there being black, white, blue, and red, each one color for each of the cardinal directions. But declares he'll never switch to white Tez, as that's Ketz. Speaking of, Cuckoo has vanished. Tez said, duh, of course she less. Cuckoo doesn't pick sides in a conflict with Miklon's own species. She's only helping us because we're outsiders. So we are on our own at the moment. Mash tells us to bring out our most powerful servants.
Some of my most powerful servants, you say? Against a ruler boss, you say? Don't mind if I do. Which my response to this is, Demon King of the Sixth Heaven, cook this man. Yeah, Mao's got remove defensive on her NP.
Ah, okay, that's why. I was wondering why.
Well, also, she's anti-divinity, so...
Oh, that'd also be super useful. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, my big hitters for this were specifically Space Ishtar and Mao were in there with some support. I did use a little of Summer Edise in my backline, because she is actually a very strong single-target Avenger, but she's not grailed and turbo-scaled like my other evil women, so I figured Mao would be a great fit for this matchup.
Yeah, I am glad this fight was only 1 pip, because boy howdy do I like my units being constantly stunned, having their buffs, debuffs not proc, needing Pierce and Volt constantly, and having to keep an MP from firing every 2 turns. I had a Fox Bunny drop multiple rocks on this man. Origin Bullet was great, as it just gives you constant Pierce Invul. It solved a lot of problems, I'm gonna be real.
Oh yeah, no, that was also my other strat, was I learned through the use of the filter, I own like 6 Craft Essences, which all have Pierce Invul on them. The shame they're all like 5 stars, but if you've been playing for a while, people at home, you've probably got some. I think one of the most useful ones was, what is it? Is it called Sweet Crystal? It's got Altera on it. It's just 50% battery, Pierce Invul. And I have a couple others, so yeah, no. Origin Bullet's one of them. There's another one with Drake on it, but like, there's like 6 of them, I think. Like I said, though, they're all 5 stars, so one factor of not getting to use like friend support a lot and like having to include MASH in the front line, not my back line, so I have to like use all of my servant slots, cost very high in this Lostbelt.
I actually my new strat here is I just plan for 4 servants. Like I've just been leaving my back one just empty, so I can just get that extra bit. Because generally, if I've gotten to that last servant, then my strategy is probably pretty much fucked anyway, and I just need to start over or spend a stone anyway. So yeah, because usually I've realized I've realized that I try to build my team around around usually a couple supports and a linchpin. If the supports or the linchpins go, like the rest is just gonna slowly fall apart anyway. So it's better to
team comps. Like sometimes I stick like endurers in the back row, like hide Herc back there. Get a couple of sweepers, but yeah, no. For later parts of this Lostbelt, I really embraced making the 3-man cell work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, actually, there is a lot to be played around with smaller team sizes. I did not think of using your minimums for, because you got to have a 1 plus your front row. Normally. But sometimes less. The game will actually does let you know when you can use fewer, which is important for some things.
Things.
Yeah, but no. Tez is an annoying guy.
Very much so. But it turns out Yuo was apparently having a float walk and just so happened to see us, and just so happened that she's all black. Tez and just so happened to want revenge against killing her once. Color returns to the world. Black Tez can't fucking believe it, and flat out states that she's counting as enemy and that we knew that and been keeping it from her. Excuse me. Yuo doesn't take that well and flees. But before anything else can happen, the skies go dark as the sun vanishes, and Black Tez mentions that Izzy must have succeeded in killing the king. There's nothing left to do but to see who reaches Ort first, David or us.
I kind of feel like, I'm thinking about it now, I feel like we didn't know that they would want to steal the sun for reasons. I'm still not entirely sure why they decided to steal the sun. Maybe just to keep the Osalome happy. Though I think that they're attacking on Chichen Itza as an important part of Tez's general plan to fuck shit up. But I
think it was probably more Iskali's plan, because he wants to be cool and stuff.
Yeah, but Iskali wouldn't do anything without Tez approving it.
Tez did approve it though. That's why he came along.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But like I don't know if he would propose the idea on his own. I don't remember if this actually even comes up. They do, like you said, they want to steal the Solar Sojourn and take the sun, which does stuff. And effectively, because we were going to go to the Dinosaur King, this does kind of fuck up our future operations plans against Tez and David, so it was all part of the plan. But we probably should have been a little stronger with the Danos and trying to do something to securify them. I don't know if there was anything else we could have done, but I do kind of feel like we just are minding our own business when the city is invaded by 1,000 Ocelot unit, and we're just kind of like, well, shit, that's not very good.
I mean, what are we supposed to do? We are just a small team with a broken ship trying to take care of multiple objectives and stop other ones. We don't necessarily have the time, resources, or personnel to lay the defense of a city down.
It is true, but like I said, that's one of those things of like, there are many things in this that we just don't comment on. I think I'm realizing now, like, we probably should have thought of that. Even if we couldn't do anything, we probably should have started planning for that contingency. There are a couple of times where things come up and it's like,
oh, wait, no, I think I know why we didn't think of it, because usually the warriors are on the plains and they're very big and strong, so the Ocelome couldn't get here. I think we thought that
you're right, yes, I forgot. And that's something we would not necessarily have known. Vakub fucked us.
Yeah, because Vakub literally moved the defenses away.
He reassigned them, yes, without telling.
Like, yeah, like I had to think about that. It's like, why didn't we?
That's right. That came up in the conversation with him and Vakub that we that's part of the thing we forgot to detail.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Again, I should probably, like, it's one of those things, like, doesn't seem very important in the moment, but now that you bring up this point, it's like, no, there's a thing.
Yes, that's right. So that's, and I think that's why, again, not that Cuckoo would have stepped in directly, as explained, but I don't know. If the fight hadn't started yet, I could see her drop kicking Tez from across the city. But the reason why Cuckoo decides to go with us is that, like, there's nothing was supposed to change in Chichen Itza at all. There's nothing for her to hang around with. So the Vakub was the one who agreed to let them steal the sun.
So Pip 7 at the top of the Solar Solus, Izzy meets with little Tez and doesn't know that he is the king of dinosaurs. Hell, he didn't even know that he was another Tez. Blue Tez, in fact. Much like how Izzy had Vakub's number, little Tez has Izzy's, and this unnerves Izzy greatly. Tez explains on how he's on everybody's side, so of course he'd be with the Danos. Izzy tries to logic around it, but ultimately just ends up shooting little Tez. There was actually a lot to unpack here, but unfortunately I don't think there was a way to necessarily parse it well. Like, I was actually staring at it a while, but I'm just like, I don't know how I can properly explain how fucking unnerved Izzy is as fucking little Tez just pokes all of his buttons.
Yeah, the best way you say it is, though I think in the edit we rewrote that. I originally wrote that Iskali reads Vakub like a book, which is why that metaphor comes up. When you rewrote that note, I think the book part left, but that's what we're referring to.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, in that scene, Iskali, like, because you did explain what he does, is he's like, Vakub, you just want us to take care of your problems. You don't like the King of Dinosaurs. You don't like the
that's
the
right.
Stormlord.
I didn't use a metaphor. I was more literal with it.
Yeah.
That's why.
And we're using a metaphor because explaining this literally is hard. Because Blue Tezcatlipoca understands Iskali perfectly, just like Iskali did to Vakub. The problem is that Iskali's not really prepared for that one. Like, Iskali has a worldview that is laser focused on, I am the king who will become a god. I have been chosen by Tezcatlipoca to become Tezcatlipoca. Everything I do is with the assurance that it is our plan to destroy proper human history. And so he's like, well, obviously, because I'm going to become Tezcatlipoca, Tezcatlipoca is my perfect, undeniable god. Everything he says is correct. Nothing he could ever do would fuck me over. What do you mean there's a second Tezcatlipoca working for the dinos? Like, his moment is just like, he's so locked in that everything he's doing is correct. And which makes sense. He's an Avenger, so he's, like, laser focused. Avengers, not known for being rational. But he's locked in perfectly on, I will do what Tezcatlipoca says. Everything, like we said, is part of the plan where I become the god Tezcatlipoca, and and Tezcatlipoca's plan is to destroy proper human history, who I hate. I hate them. I want them all to die. And he's just not ready for like we said, Blue Tezcatlipoca, because as we saw in David's flashback, the Blue Tezcatlipoca was a chain summon. Like, he showed up because regular Tezcatlipoca showed up. So, then, he's, like, so perplexed, right? He could not believe that one of the guys on his side is on the other side, and, Blue Tez instantly calls him out on the logic paradox of, hey, I'm Tezcatlipoca. You worship me. You're a human man. Are you supposed to be able to kill a god? And then Iskali's like, obviously not, because you are Tezcatlipoca. Like, because another point to bring up is he's with an elite group of Osalome.
Mm.
All of them figure it out before Iskali does, and like throw down their weapons and like bow. Right?
Yep.
They realize, oh shit, that's a Tezcatlipoca. We should be respectful at least. So Blue Tez calls out Iskali on being like, hey, they know I'm a Tezcatlipoca. You're not supposed to shoot me. But if you don't shoot me, then you'll be disobeying Black Tezcatlipoca. Like, he puts him in a logic paradox.
Yeah.
And this really fucks up Iskali's day. It cannot be overstated how much this makes Iskali's brain hurt. He is not having a good time.
So eventually, Izzy just basically asks, are you on our side or are you on the proper human side? And Blue Tez goes, how fucking dare you suggest I'm on humanity's sides? Like, I'm on the fucking Lostbelt side, and then Izzy shoots him.
Yeah, like, he tries to logic around it, but he doesn't like that answer either, and then he's just like, I'm solving my problem with Bullet.
Bullet, go.
And then, like, we instantly get this moment of, like, internal reflection, because Iskali's like, the Osalome don't speak English anyway, they have no idea what just happened. They just know that our goal is accomplished, we've captured the Solar Sojourn. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. So, Pip 8. We get a log of the aftermath from the Battle of Chichen Itza. Only 62 Danos survived. Out of the 2,000 Osalome that attacked, only 18 survived, and we finally figure out what they were. They were apes, a recent species to Miklon. Apparently Taz brought them together and raised them up. Vakub survived and claims he did nothing wrong as he was fighting for the continued survival of the world, but he was charged with treason and thrown in prison. Apparently flying in the sky was considered disrespectful of the sun, so Vakub may have been going a little stir-crazy.
That's another very interesting one where just, like, again, equality versus equity. The Danos don't realize that, like, well, he's a fly guy, so, like, he's gonna want to fly. But we've just figured out what this sun thing that keeps us alive is. We shouldn't let him just fly up there. That's not normal. That would, that disrespects our winds and our sun. We're developing our appreciation of that. Also, yes, actually, some people in chat mentioned the thing that gets Iskali to really freak out is that when Blue Tez says that he's on the side of the Lostbelt, he tries to assert that Black Tezcatlipoca is on the side of proper human history, which I've completed this Lostbelt. That is not strictly correct either. That is not necessarily how I would describe Black Tezcatlipoca's motivations, but it's enough to make Iskali angry enough for him to mag dump the small Tez.
The small Tez.
Because if that was true, then that would mean that Black Tezcatlipoca has betrayed Iskali, and Iskali cannot handle that.
Yeah. Turns out that the Danos' incredible empathy meant that they never saw themselves as special, They just lived happy lives while waiting for the world to end. They would go quietly and without a fuss, as Mala intended. This world was never intended to win over humanity. It was always just a what if. This was written in Da Vinci's Gran Cavello log.
Saying it's just a what if does make me wonder. Obviously, the foreign god may have wanted to create this Lostbelt for a chance to slurp up Ort for tactical reasons, but this definitely feels like this was a Lostbelt that wasn't picked to try and create a new mythology, right?
Actually, I think I actually think that I think the Cryptors picked their Lostbelts and where they ended up, I think. So I think it might have been David trying to
Yeah,
get
I'm about to say, I think David, like, I what I'm saying is, I think the foreign god may have allowed it for the opportunity to capture Ort, but this Lostbelt was clearly not designed with the normal operation, and like you said, the other Cryptors got to, like, figure out their rough region. I already talked about it a little, but this is another good point to cycle back to the thing that Lucky remembered from, I told him to remember last week. In general, the Danos believe in true equality. They do not look down on anybody for lacking, but they don't praise anybody for excelling. This is kind of what seems to be the crux between, like, several of our Danos characters, but especially right now, Vakub's kind of complex. Like, he thinks that because he is a flyer and he is unique, there are no other flying dinosaurs currently. They did mention that there used to be more, but they were kind of, like, Tepu phrased it as discriminated against. So I don't know if that was, like, when the Danos were less enlightened or what, or just that's Tepu's way of phrasing it because Tepu is more aware of these things than the other Danos are.
Yeah, Tepu did say that there was like aquatic and flyer forms, but they live in isolation and exile or just don't get along with the theropods for some odd reason.
I guess the implication is that because they have different wants and needs and outlooks, that they did not get along as well as the other Danos seem to. So, like I said, this is why Vakub has a complex. He can fly. He can do something that no other Danos can do, but they don't let him, none of the other Danos let him do that. Like, it's against their policy for him to be himself, basically. And that, like, causes him to build up a lot of resentment, a lot of comparison, even. And Tepu has a like, similar issue in that, like, his big thing is that there's a person he cares about, Jaquik, who is stuck in a circumstance. She cannot leave the inner sea, the world's reality marble. And they don't describe what he has done, but he has apparently tried everything in his power to figure out how to solve that. And
sorry, I just get it. Zaquik can't leave the observatory, can she? Like,
no.
Literally cannot leave.
Yeah.
Okay, that just clicked for me. Sorry.
Yeah, she at the very least, she definitely can't leave that layer of the underworld, but I believe the implication is she can't leave the observatory dome at all.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Tepu, has tried everything in his power to figure out how to let her out. He can't do it. And so he lives in self-exile, basically. Instead of Tepu doing the smart thing and moving in with your giant dinosaur girlfriend. Come on. I think that's why he's done, like, almost every underworld pilgrimage already. Like, the only place he hasn't gone is the very bottom, because it's poisonous and filled with cosmic radiation. So, Tepu has that different outlook from the others because he he perceives something that the others don't perceive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even argue, because we saw a little of his monologue, Wak-chan also has a little bit of that too. Like, he just decided to be a warrior just because he was big and strong, but his heart's not really in it, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, there are a couple of Danos who are clearly at least slightly differentiated from kind of their groupthink.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, none of the Danos, like, ever try to, like, figure out some way to meet their specific needs, which is, again, important because, like, it's, like, honestly, despite the fact that he's a fucking, you know, pterosaur type, Vakub is one of the most human characters in this story. In that he is a petty little fuck-up who thinks he's special.
I was gonna say he's a little shit.
Yes, exactly. Like, he is a huge goober who is responsible for a lot of his own problems, but also he is, like, in that moment when he betrays the rest of the Danos, basically, or at least when he betrays the king of the dinosaurs, we should put it in, he is also the only Danos who is actively thinking about, hey, our sun's gonna blow up or something. Is there anything we could do to fix that? These Asalome say that their rituals will fix it. They'll keep the sun running. So that would be better, right? That would be better for our world to continue? Maybe? Huh? Anybody? And the rest of the Danos are like, nah, man. And he's like, interesting. Anyway, fuck you. like Vakub is shitty. He's like I said, he's a bad person, but I understand he is a person. He is like even more so than Tepu. Like Tepu actually like has character development in like getting empathy and stuff. Like that's part of his moments with, Marine is him realizing like, oh, I was doing like logical, rational, not emotional things. Whoops. I've upset my fragile emotional friends. But yes, that was, like I said, that was where I actually wrote down on my notes to circle back on that thing, because this is why Vakub is the way Vakub is.
Yeah.
Also, I put this in my in the patron chat, but I'll say it out loud for people. I double checked because everybody's name means something. Vakub is part of the name of a bird demon in the Mayan Popol Vuh.
Ah.
So he literally has the name of a mythological antagonist.
Makes sense. So speaking of antagonists, Cuckoo has green text, as I assume she is connecting with the Mala or the God Filaments directly. Supercorn to supercorn communication. She speaks about how the Tree of Emptiness on the 9th stratum is resuming activity, causing the cosmic rays to recede. And this is when Lucky had the thought, it was mentioned earlier that there was a giant saber tree of evil at the bottom, and I don't know why I didn't go, hey, is that the evil tree we're looking for? It seems so obvious in hindsight. I hate it.
It was indeed the evil tree we were looking for. I guess the question is there were just so many weird space trees. Like you said earlier, there were literally two weird space trees, kind of, that we just decided to say fuck it. But it is interesting that the Mala acknowledge that the Tree of Emptiness is important to keeping this thing functioning, so we should not let anybody from outside fuck with it.
Wait, did the tree hit? Wait, if it's on the bottom, did Ort hit it, or did Ort hit the tree, or did the tree hit Ort?
That's something you're gonna have to find out.
Great! I love this!
You're like 1 or 2 sections from that one.
Okay. Sorry, I was about to scroll up because I'm pretty sure when they explained, I think when Tepu originally explained the layers, he actually does mention that the 9th layer is the giant Saba tree. And I'm like, yeah, that's a giant tree. We probably should have gone, yes, maybe that's it. But I didn't. Alright, hang on. I have to scroll back to where I was. Alright, here we are. Anyways, no one is supposed to go down there, and there can't be interference, so Cuckoo supposes she's gonna have to kill everyone from proper human history. Oh well. Just post a meme of the old man shrugging, but instead of, guess I'll die, it's like, guess they'll die?
Yep.
And we'll move on to section 16. Epilogue.
Yeah, you're not gonna fucking trick me, Gabe. I get that this is supposed to be, epilogue to, the Chichen Itza bit, but, that... What a move to try and claim epilogue when there's still so much to be done.
Robin in the chat was all like, Lucky, that could be any giant tree responsible for life in this realm. Don't be silly. It's like, I know, right? Ugh.
Well, funny enough, because he refers to it as a Saba tree, that's a actual species of trees from the Americas and West Africa, which means started to evolve in when those two were the same continent.
Yeah, no, the Saba tree, I knew that was, an actual tree because, fun fact, you can farm Saba logs in Final Fantasy XIV, and, that has the big, South American flavor, so I knew that was a thing. But it's one of those things of, we are looking for a giant, tree. There is a giant tree on the 9th stratum, apparently. Again, it's one of those things, much like we didn't question the plant roots and Chichen Itza and stuff, we didn't question the giant tree at the bottom of the fucking thing, where we have no sensors, that we can't detect anything. And, also the Tree of Emptiness that we can't detect.
Yep.
The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, but at the same time, you can start making some fucking conclusions.
Also, other fun tree facts. The Saba tree is the national tree of Guatemala, which is where the currently some of the still living Maya peoples live.
Ah, yeah. Some of them take their heritage very, very seriously, by the way.
Yeah, that's another thing we should mention in case people are not familiar with Central America. But the civilization may be gone, but all of the ethnicities who made up Mexica, the Maya, and a lot of the other regional tribes, they all still live there. And since we've started poking around in the jungle, we've recovered a decent number of their records and stuff.
Yeah. Some people can actually can actually trace their ancestry back to some of the smaller tribes in the area as well.
And now that we understand the Mayan language, the big Mayan city-state cultures, they're the kind of people who, like, every time they'd get a new king or something, he'd make sure to write his name down on a big stone plaque.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're actually a very comprehensive record-keeping people. Unfortunately, a lot of our knowledge of their written history was destroyed by the Catholic Church, who destroyed a lot of Mayan and Aztec codices.
I could say stuff, but I'm not. I'm just gonna keep going. Pip 1! The Caldean crew has gathered on the storm border, and everyone is at a loss for words. Gordolf gathers himself up and recaps everything real quick, as well as mentioning that Koyanskaya is recuperating. Also mentions that the Dino 11 are missing, but left a message for us saying they'll catch up in overtime. Apparently, Koyanskaya will recover faster if someone gave her magical energy, but no one is foolish enough to do that. And then jump cut to Kadok.
We do a fucking LB6 jump cut, and I'm like, ooh, I love when we do that. Just like, we just pop his face in and linger for a second, and then whoop. Ooh, Gesundheit.
Heck. Unfortunately, with this new development, we can't count on any of our former allies. Madam President is the foreign god, Cuckoo is the Archetype Nikolon, and the Lostbelt King, and most likely wants to destroy the outsiders first, starting with Tez and David. We have 2 hours of rest, though, and we want to check in with the Danos, and maybe see some familiar faces. Wak-Chan lets us know that the survivors are at the Zokta Shrine, and we head off. Kadok thinks that this is a bad idea and is going to join us, but Wak-Chan stops him. He wants to know what's really going on with us and Madam President, and Kadok himself to tell him.
I do like Kadok's present in the story because, as he said, he is much more of a classical magus, so he is, like, kind of suspicious and cynical about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his first instinct is like, no, you idiot, don't go to where the Danos are probably, like, grieving for their dead comrades. That's not exactly what they're doing, but, Kadok has no way of guessing that.
Mm-hmm.
But, Wak-Chan stops him to ask him about relationship advice.
Over at the Zokta Shrine, the Danos are carrying on as normal. We braced ourselves to be hated by them, but instead they showed us kindness. Despite everything, they are glad we came and shared our stories with them, and happy they'll be remembered when they're gone. But this makes them sad, too. They don't hold on to the past and have no future, so they decide to live in the present. There's a flashback to Mash from long ago when she had a limited lifespan. It's a bittersweet moment, and the Danos explained this to us, and how Tepu doesn't think that differently from other Danos. He just has a more unique view of the world due to his eyes. With that, though, it's time for the Danos to return to the jungle, as there is nothing left for them in Chichen Itza. As we watch the Danos go, the priestess of the foreign god watch us in turn.
Yeah, that's another weird one. I'm just like, the priestess watching us? She showed up all of a sudden?
Oh, really? Sorry, I just checked over Patron Trad, and someone's all like, concerned about Lucky? I'm all like, what concern? And then someone else said, in Mexico, only the descendants of the tribes can sell products on the grounds of the temples and other sites. I'm like, that's neat.
It's kind of like what we do in the USA with our indigenous tribes, but we just allow them to not have regulations on gambling. Also, no, Axe, the people who pissed off Lucky was the Catholic Church. But yeah, no, the priestess showing up is just one of those weird moments. But yeah, the Danos don't hate our guts. I don't think the Danos are physically capable of that. I'm not even sure if Vakub hates us. I think he just thinks logically that we're enemies. So they're sad about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Pip 2. At the 2-hour mark, we make out our plans. It'll be about 20 hours before the storm border is operational, but we cannot wait that long. We decide to act simultaneously with 2 plans. One plan will have Kadok and Koyaskaya take the shadow border and ambush David as he makes his way down. The second team will be us, Mash, and Habatrot, Nito, and Da Vinci as we race to the bottom to destroy the tree. Pip 3.
Also, actually, we should say, technically, they ask you the question of, like, which plan do you think has the best success, because Gordolf pitches them separately, and then Kadok jumps in and is like, no, we'll do both.
Yes, that is correct. But Pip 3.
Yes. We're doing the Legion of Doom thing again. I missed this one. I feel like barely throughout part 1 did we do this cutaway to what the villains are doing. Bless you again. He's still got to wage that war against Dust, Jet.
I am waging that war against Dust, and I did sleep better last night, but apparently I gotta get back on it. Like, I cleaned out my air conditioner, washed my blankets, wiped down a lot of surfaces. I mean, a lot of surfaces.
But yeah, no, like I said, I feel like the last time we had this much... Actually, that's not entirely true. We had a decent number of cutaways in Trom, but like LB6 was like, I feel like made by the fact that we were constantly cutting back to like what Morgan was doing. So like,
hey, Morgan, what you doing, girl?
It didn't hurt that like her leitmotif Winter Throne was real cool. We had that specific piece of music we played whenever we checked in and what was up with her. But yeah, no. So we're checking in on what the others are doing.
Oh, sorry, just my nose started running a little bit from that sneeze.
Oh yeah, no. I understand. I'm actually glad that it's been dry lately, which helps. And like I said, I hit my room with a vacuum once a week.
Back in Mexico City, Izzy watches a few of the Ocelot unit rejoin their families, while those too young to fight look on in envy. Izzy goes over everything he's done and how he was made from the land itself in the form of humans for proper human history. His purpose is to become the next Tez, and would do so as long as his soul was unclouded. And yet, something bothers him. He meets Tez, who says everything is going great, Izzy did great, and it's time to travel down to the 9th layer and reach a true altar. One on the Moon Lake. Gotta pay respects to Ort's coffin.
Scully is currently experiencing what we call in the biz character development. And as usual, Tezcatlipoca tries to dodge all of that. I just imagine him putting an arm around Izcalli's shoulder and being like, "No, it's great. You did great. You killed the king of the dinosaurs just like I asked. Good for you. I picked you because I knew you could handle it, kid." And Izcalli's just like, yes.
If Tez wasn't a fucking arms dealer type, he feels like a used car salesman from the fucking 90s.
I mean, with his fit, he does kind of look like a used car salesman sometimes. Like, not like a normal used car salesman, but like, I'm just imagining him like in the middle of nowhere desert highway used car dealership. Like there's no way he's doing enough business to live out here, but somehow he's out here and he's gonna sell you a killer deal of that sedan. Actually, there's a joke. I should remember that joke for later, where we're gonna go. But yeah, like, Izcalli's experiencing a lot of stuff. I think the key one of emotions he's feeling is like, he respects and appreciates the Ocelome, and he's like very aware of like how they feel, you know, like he imagines that like the loved ones of those who died when they went with him are like looking at him, you know, judging him. But also admits that because we now know that despite we got the impression that the Ocelome were jaguar men who were summoned by Tezcatlipoca, and that's, you know, not correct. They are local primates.
Yep.
Izcalli is like, yeah, I don't fit in here. I'm the only human among these Ocelome, these ape men, and it's weird. And Tez is like, don't worry about it. We got shit to do. Come on down.
Come on down to the nice room. We got deals on Ort.
Now I'm just Tezcatlipoca would do the "fuck you Baltimore" commercial. Fuck you, Mixlan. That actually does work, because that's got the joke about, you know, do this, fuck you. Well, fuck your wife. Tez did that. He banged Talok's first wife, which is why that son didn't work. Once again, Tezcatlipoca's not a nice guy. He's a fucker. He's the reason why all these suns keep blowing up.
So Kotomina and you Olga are having their own meeting. Olga seems to be more or less back to her old self and refuses to let these incompetent humans continue on. She's going to acquire Ort and orders Kotomina to destroy the storm border when they try to escape. Pip 4. We lay out everything for Tepu and ask him to join us. He agrees and is glad that we did so. He was worried that we would go on without him due to the differences in cultures, but he has some things to get ready, so he'll meet us at the castle gate, but would like to ask us a favor. Walking the streets of Chichen Itza, it's all quiet, and when we say as much, Cuckoo appears. She tries to scare us a little bit, but we are unfazed. Nonetheless, she makes her role and position clear. When we meet at the bottom layer, we will be enemies. Lucky is just looking at, section 18, the first section, and just seeing the enemy foreigner. I'm just like, because we're getting to what will be the last segment of the night. Yes, Jesus, it's still several pages.
Yeah, no. This is another. The problem is there's I feel like there's fucking 4 anchor points at the end of this Lostbelt. 17 is only the first of them, and there's gonna be so many things dumped on. But yeah, Fourth Underworld, Yayahwakwi.
I do like this line from Axe. Do you think Tez is annoyed that he's not the reason that the sun is blowing up? That's great.
My response was, maybe that's why he's trying to blow it up early. He's like, oh, these guys have a sun that's gonna blow up, and it's not my fault?
Well, we can't let that stand.
Get the gun, David. I got work to do.
So section 17, Fourth World, Yayahwakwi. Pip 1, Chichen Itza to the Golden Sea of Trees. It's been 6 hours since the mission started, and we're already past the observatory. Us, Mash, and Nito are riding on Wakchan, who decide to come with us. Da Vinci is riding on Tepu and is totally thrilled. While his feathers are more for stability, Tepu reckons he can fly with a spell now.
Because remember, he knows Magecraft. Also, this is just great. We're just dinosaur riding now. What a wonderful time. Also, I don't know exactly when we because I realized in your notes we do actually specifically go to Tepu and ask him to bring it up. I think Wak-chan mentions it, but I don't know when he decided exactly to come with us. But shout out to him for going for it.
I think it's because on our way out, like Tepu might have ran into Wak-chan. I think they actually say a little bit, but I didn't think it was important enough to actually write it down.
If there is an explanation, but I think it's only like one line long. It's not a big deal. It's just Wak-chan decides to write it out with us, and it's good. He's ride or die.
Yeah. While in motion, Tepu asks if there's anything we want to know about the 8th stratum and gives us a quick rundown. It's a sunless mountain range inside another mountain range. It is known as Yayakui, the Black Lion. It's also the home of Kami. Wak-chan wishes Cuckoo was here to deal with Batty, but Tepu reminds them that they are enemies now. Wak-chan doesn't seem to mind. He's thrown in his lot with us. We mentioned that along with Cuckoo, we still have to worry about Olga and Rasputin. Flashback to Aresh altering Kadok. Aresh is willing to bend the rules a little to let Kadok through, but she can't do much more than that. She is part of the rules here now. Although she will let Kadok know the route David takes when he gets there.
Yeah, I think when we were talking about the splitting of labor, Kadok mentions...
that he hasn't actually passed the...
Yeah, he hasn't passed the trial, so he can't go past the third underworld anyway. So, like you said, Aresh says that she can bend the rules to let him into the underworld without completing her trial, but can't let him go past, because that is against the rules.
Yes. In the Shadow Borer, Kadok and Koyaskaya are on standby with their driver, Gordolf, who, by the way, isn't sure how he got here, but saying that Munier is still too injured gets him in line, not to mention some of Koyanskaya's charm. Aresh does get them the info, though, and Kadok plans his interception point. They set out, and Koyaskaya mentions that Kadok was researching something, asking if he found it. Kadok mentions that he found some files on David.
Time for Teach Me, Professor Kadok, about the Mages Association, which I'm fairly certain, while we've discussed some elements of the Mages Association before, this is the actual first time that FGO specifically has tried to explain the clock tower and the departments and stuff. Like, if you followed case files and other media, you would know some of this already, but FGO has not actually bothered to unpack how the association works in this way yet. Like, we've explained a little bit about Atlas and a little bit about the Wandering Sea, but...
So, there are three major factions in the Mages Association. Egypt's Atlas Institute, the North Sea's Wandering Sea, and the largest, London's Clock Tower. Clock Tower is divided into 13 departments. Mistile, Solanea, Evocation, Kishur, Chimera, Brishon, Umina, Astromancy, Value, Jigmarie, Meloaste... Oh man, those sneezes did more than I thought, man. My nose is bleeding right now.
Ooh,
Policies and Norwich. Give me a second while I go stuff my nose with something. Man, it must be really dry in here, I think. I'll be right back.
Alright, we'll pause up
The blood.
Then we unpause after that brief, unplanned intermission.
Yes. I hope I don't sound too different. I do have something shoved up one of my nostrils right now.
You can hear it a little bit, but it's not that obvious.
Okay. If you recall, Chaldea was founded by the Lord of Answermancy, Marsbury Amusphere. That means that there is about an 80-20 split in Chaldea's mages, with the majority coming from Answermancy. Kashtaria was from Answermancy, but David was from Brishon. Brishon apparently concerns itself with the study of non-human creatures such as angels and demons. There is a bit of a side grade here as we talk about how the Mages Association treats things related to mythology as just another facet of common knowledge. Therefore, they don't have a dedicated department to it.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. The fact that, because I think is it Koyanskaya who asks it? She's like, oh, so the folklore department deals with, mythology? And he's like, no, actually.
Yes.
We count that as just part of the common knowledge that builds, our Magecraft system. So...
Yeah. He mentions, how several departments actually deal with servants and, stuff like that. Brishon apparently discovers, studies, and stores things outside the common knowledge, as they are threats to mankind. They focus on keeping the inhuman away from humans. This is partly because the Lord of Brishon is also the Dean of Clock Tower.
And I wrote this down, but this isn't relevant to a lot of part of this conversation. They're not joking about that threat to mankind shit. The thing they're describing with these angel and demon relics are really bad juju. Later, we hear the story that it seems like David has probably been through, the ending of 2001: A Space Odyssey or something, and they're just keeping this shit in their basement.
Well, it's probably because they can't destroy it, and they have nowhere else to put it.
Yeah.
According to Kadok, no Morge born in the AD era with knowledge of modernization could handle the job of Dean of Clock Tower. And apparently the Dean is ancient, having lived long before the AD era. I do believe that it is, you said earlier, do you think that that's Zeltrich, probably?
Yeah, I think he's supposed to be one of the heads, but it might be, the wiki says that it's, the reason why it's called Brishan is that the guy who leads it is actually called Brishan.
Ah, okay.
Let me see if we got a source for this. Oh, okay. According to Case Files material, Brishan is he is in fact pre-AD because he is a disciple of King Solomon.
Ah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. That's gonna be very awkward if we ever have to talk to this guy. Hey, I knew your boss. He was my doctor. He was weird.
Have you heard of Magical Mari?
That of course the big zoomer is that Lord Brishan would be like, yeah, that shit's lit. I'm like 2,000 years old. That's crazy.
Gordolf mentions that while the Dean has elites that answer to them, they are anything but, more akin to slaves that have never really had the chance to move up. Also, it's hard to quit the department. Gordolf thought that Maresbury had to pull some strings to get David, but actually he had nothing to do with it. According to records, even though it seemed like he was banished, David actually left voluntarily. Continuing on, Kadok found records of David and Brishan, where he was for 8 years, but nothing before that. David just appeared one day, a genius 10-year-old.
I also like the knowledge here that, like, the folklore department, the department of Brishan, is, like, the ultimate dead-end job in the clock tower. Like, other mages have, like, politics and advancement. There's, in fact, a lot of, like, behind-the-scenes bullshit that, for instance, Waver has to deal with as Lord El Meloy,
yeah.
you know? And all that go on. The folklore department, no, you are... The only reason why you're here is because you want to be doing this horse shit, and thus you will not be going anywhere. You do not get, like, positions of power. You do not get respect. You work directly for the Dean, but that's it.
So then Kadok turned his attention to Brishan itself. And notes there was a small incident called Records, 5 minutes, in which every spell in London failed. This was considered minor. Side note here. Why? That's fucking weird, y'all.
Yeah, I think Kadok even says that, like, oh, the Mage Association wrote it off because it lasted for 5 minutes, so everybody just assumed they did their spells wrong and did them again. Which is stupid. Stupid of you.
I didn't write it down, but Gordolf says, like, if I was in charge at the time, that wouldn't have been passed up as minor. I was like, yes, Gordolf.
I also like this. I don't think we mentioned you wrote this down in the notes, but there's a point where, like, when talking about the departments, Gordolf is like, policies, love to work there, great place, and Koyansky, of course, is like, oh, so Lord Gordolf was a mage cop, basically. You were internal affairs.
And I believe, like, she says something to the fact, like, using your power to hold it over others, were you? And Gordolf's like, moving on.
Oh shit, I don't want to have the conversation with this lady right now. Oh shit, get me out of here. Kadok, I can't believe you brought this up. Kadok is like, I did not bring this up.
That's exactly how it would go. This was considered minor, but at the same time, though, elsewhere, an angel relic was exposed for 0.2 seconds, and the resulting whatever happened there left only one survivor, a 10-year-old child. That child vanished, and a few months later, 10-year-old David showed up. We don't actually know if he was 10 years old, though. He just looked like a 10-year-old. So we went with it. Kadok basically theorized that exposure to the angel record has altered David's way of thinking in that a way that has removed him from humanity. There's no further time to talk now, as they have reached the interception point, and Kadok wants to set enough traps within 500 meters to make this place a living hell.
This I do appreciate. Like, this is another one of those reasons when you understand, oh, this is why Maresbury picked this guy, right? Like, Maresbury picked 7 dudes, some of whom were obvious, like, technical picks, you know, Python, Akuta, as she was known, was picked because as an elemental, she would, be more durable than most people. David was allowed to join because of his Davidness. Wodaime was Maresbury's protege and such. Kadak was picked despite the fact that he's not a super powerful mage. He knows a lot about hunting and ambushing and surviving.
Yes.
And, now that they're picking Koyan Sky to be supplying him with the materials, like, I think he, like, asks her, like, hey, you got enough mines to make this work? And she's like, oh, yeah.
Pip 2, Raid Point. David has a Humvee and is driving through a sandstorm with Tez. They talk about several things, like Camazotz, Cuckoo, and maybe you should not give out command spells.
Yes, this is where we very explicitly learned that, like, Tezcatlipoca got our command spells and then almost immediately turned around and gave them to Camazotz because Camazotz was like, ooh, me likey. And he was like, sure, seems neat. Also, there's a great line by David here, which I had to write down. He says, well, maybe you shouldn't give out command seals to every Tomas, Rico, and Javier you run into, which are like, immediately like, the names of our Halo Marines? Also, just in general, great joke. I assume this is the Spanish equivalent of every Tom, Dick, and Harry.
Yeah, no, I would
also,
assume so.
Brand new joke, but if Tezcatlipoca is a used car dealer, clearly he is who he acquired the Humvee for David.
Probably. Honestly, David was actually able to reverse engineer fucking guns from Koyanskaya. I could probably see him probably pulling out a Humvee from somewhere.
Alternatively, Koyanskaya had a Humvee and David was like, one of those two, please.
Yeah. So apparently Izzy's in the backseat getting car sick. He asks where Talaka is, and Tez is like, dunno. Apparently her job was to build the city. I just realized I have used apparently twice at the beginning of the same sentence, and that is poor. That is poor English! How dare you, Lucky?
This is another thing I want to see this scene animated because David is driving, Tez is in the front seat, Kali's in the back, and he's not having a good time. David says that he doesn't have a driver's license, he just took an online course.
Well, good thing there's no fucking cops in fucking Miklon.
Also, if there were any cops, Tez would shoot them.
Probably. I'm sorry, I would just imagine a cop pulled him over. Tez, like, let me see your ID. Tez hands over a card, and the card just says, I do what I want. And then as the cop goes, what? Tez shoots him.
Tez just hands him the sugar skull, and the cop is like, what does this mean? And Tezcatlipoca's like, you ready to trial now, boy? Welcome to the underworld.
Yes. It was originally, I practiced saying this, I'm already gonna fuck it up again. Metztilapon, or the Lake of the Moon. Upon hearing that, Izzy starts getting a headache. He begins to remember. At this point, they come under attack. David informs them that there is a divine spirit ahead of them, so Tez and Izzy should go on ahead. Koyanskaya is there as the goddess of weaponry, having made magical connections to both Kadak and Gordolf. David is unconcerned, though. Not even surprised as he starts to release something. We get the same scene from the view of Kadak and Gordolf, and they're feeling pretty good about their chances. But as David starts to unleash something, Gordolf yells at Kadak to brace for impact, and then the line is cut, as if power was lost.
Yeah, we see a little bit of the special David magic, which appears to be just, he opens the void of space. Anyway, I feel like Kadak and Koyanskaya forgot that David could complete the incineration of humanity while using no servants.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we must have, like, informed them that, David fought Camazotz on his own, by himself.
Yeah, no, like, David had to do so much without the aid of a servant, so naturally, of course, he can fight Koyanskaya even when she's in her goddess of guns form, because, duh, he would have had to do similar things in order to clear the incineration of humanity. Like, I don't know exactly how he would have done it, but when he got to Babylonia, he would have had to have done something about the Goddess Alliance and Gorgon.
Honestly, he probably wouldn't have, he probably would have stopped everything before Tiamat actually became a problem.
Yes, he probably would have done the thing that prevented Tiamat's corpus from waking up and then prevented Ishtar from blowing up the corpus, which awoke Big Tiamat, etc., etc. Because, like, you've noticed, and there's a reason for it, but David is very focused on accomplishing everything with the minimum amount of time spent. He has this thing about the passage of time, so, like, I just imagine he would show up in Babylonia, he would be like, King Gilgamesh, tell me everything I need to know in 5 minutes or less. And then he would be like, got it, okay.
Actually, like, he'd probably just take out Ishtar the moment that she showed up. Like, say, she causes too many fucking variables. Then with, like, Ishtar out of the way, yeah, he would go to Babylonia, speak with King Gil, be like, I see. Actually, I'm curious. Well, got it. I wish I could ask Nasu. Hey, Nasu, how would David solve the singularities? Like, what would he do exactly? I don't know if Nasu even knows. He probably just goes, he was really cool. Anyway, Pip 3, Yaya Hakui. So, it's very lovely inside the mountain. It looks like a starry night in here. It would be super nice if it wasn't for the restless dead threatening to pull you down if you slip off the narrow path. We decided to go single file to make sure that everyone has room.
Which means we gotta pick our marching order. Tank and Rogue in the front, Squishy in the middle.
The image of just everyone lined up and Wak-chan just peeking out the side gives me life.
Yeah, Wak-chan gets the back. We put Habitrot and Mash up front.
Mhm.
And yes, I am counting Habitrot, by the way, as the rogue in this situation.
Tepu asks what this layer would relate to in proper human history, but Da Vinci says there isn't a perfect one-to-one. But if she had to hazard a guess, it would be related to Kuolan, the home of the jaguar as big as a mountain. The trial basically consisted of getting past a monster without succumbing to fear. This would probably be Camazotz in this case. Speaking of casing, it's asked if we have any goods left in our handy-dandy backpack. And it turns out that we do.
Yes, it's time for Scoutmaster David's final technique. He has given us bat-repellent incense, and the anodized aluminum came back. It's the form of a coat.
Da Vinci has a why would he, and then realizes that cosmic radiation probably means some sort of radiation, and we are not immune to that like servants of Danos are. Mash promptly freaks out and changes us instantly. I love the comically shocked Mash face.
Yeah, this is very funny. Like, we
someone has the screen cap.
Yes. But, like, we're at this moment of, like, oh, it's a safety suit? Like, I can only imagine how Mash just pulls it out of our backpack, tugs the whole thing over our head.
Yeah. Instantly. Good thing about the bat repellent, too, as big long backs are 10 times worse than the insects.
Yeah, thank God we don't actually have to fight anything. It would be so annoying at this stage.
Yeah. It won't work on Camazotz, though, but we can't worry about that because we have to stop David and Ted's. Camazotz, at the back of possession, agrees that we should probably hurry as well, and if we're going after Ords, he won't stop us. Wak-chan is thrilled to hear this. We have a wait a moment, roll that one back to me moment.
Yeah, there's a Wak-chan, who are you talking to? And he's like, oh, just, Camazotz the Death Bat. And then we all go, Camazotz the Death Bat? It's very Scooby-Doo.
No, I love it. But at that point, Camazotz returns to being crazy and summons his dudes. So, Pip 4. Camazotz understands that we are on a schedule, so offers us a shortcut, but in exchange, he wants Nitocris. We'd rather fight him here and now. Before that, we asked Camazotz if he really defeated Ort, and that was probably not the right question to ask. He gets 200% mad, and decides to show us the form that he defeated it with. Excuse me. From one final warrior of humanity to another, Camazotz shows us his true form. A creature with over 100 million spirit origins. A beast class evil of humanity.
Yeah, this one kind of... Obviously, I knew because I did the pregame and, had to write about how class advantage works. Because there's so many beasts, guys. Oh my god, and they're all different. Mm-hmm. Camazotz is close to Beast 1, to Gaty and the Demon Pillars, but he's just a little different.
Honestly, I think I understand why Camazotz is a beast. Because technically, he killed his entire people, but he did it, but he still, he did it to save them.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like it was his plan per se. That's just how the people of Khan figured out they would defeat Ort. They would, stockpile all of their respective power on one guy who would become immortal and thus kill the unkillable thing.
Yeah, so it is kind of a very twisted love.
Yeah. But yeah, so, just to heap on, how heavy-hitting this is, while obviously, again, the Babylonia of Lostbelt's moment, him actually, being full-blown evil of humanity with the super subtitles and everything, basically comes out of nowhere. Da Vinci is what the fuck? How many spirit origins is he getting? And I think Mash mentions that Shiba finally identifies him as a beast class.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he has the title of Oblivion.
Yeah.
So, we do battle for a while, but then Camazotz takes flight and heads for the peak. We're a little confused, but we realize that he's taken Nitocris as well, though.
Yeah, you punch a few of his bars, but then I think this is one of the fights that just, fucking ends out of nowhere.
I think it's, after the first pip. I think the first two fights ended the first two pips, because then he casts Lightless Kanon, and that ends the fight.
And he just gets out of there. He gets the fuck out.
I will say, I did actually have a little bit of fun in these fights, too, because this is when he gets his ability to just add effects. Some of the times he'll just give you the effect where everyone gets attacked up, and it's just or he'll like negates like some defenses. So like these first couple fights where it's just like one pips, there wasn't really a lot of strategy. It was just like kind of a slugfest. Just hit him hard.
Well, and this is the first time I should mention this absolutely because I don't think it's in your notes, but this is the part where he starts counting.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting one. And
no, I like it.
And if you go, that's 3, that's bad. Don't do that. I did a test fight and I realized, okay, so I now need to solve these fights with only ever using 2 active skills a turn. We do not want to use more. That's bad.
No, I really enjoyed that mechanic. I thought that was fun. It made me choose what skills I wanted to use,
No, like I said, we'll talk about this a little later, but like I brute forced some parts of this, but obviously you have a couple of matchups with him. But like this is pretty good game design. Like a lot of this is heavy, but you can work around a decent amount of it. Because he's got, like I said, the old demon pillar type class advantage, but also he's weak to moon cancers for some reason. Like you have a decent spread of servants you can do something funny with. So like there's a lot of room to try a few things in here. And like I said, you know, once I realized like his rules basically of like, if you use 3, I'm going to do something nasty to you. I'm like, okay, so we just don't do that. We'll play around it, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, I had a, like I said, I actually like really enjoyed these fights. That's why like, it's one of the reasons why I'm not further like, well, I'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. No. But there are several fights with this guy. Like, you mentioned
yes.
He's subtitled, Beast of Oblivion. The first time we fight him, even though he gets the cool intro, which is rad. I don't know why there's like Matrix numbers falling, but it's cool. But his subtitle is hidden.
Yes. I forgot. I couldn't remember if it was hidden the first time or not.
Yeah, the first time they do the intro, it's hidden. It's obliviated. And then when the thing happens and we reveal, we have the rule imposed, it's like Oblivion. I cut it out because I couldn't find a good spot to tack it back in, but this is where I put my original joke of, I originally typed in my notes just when this mode starts, Evil of Humanity in all caps because we get our boss subtitles. And then under it later when he clarifies, I just put Elder Scrolls 4.
That's what the joke was. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I kind of figured it probably didn't make sense out of context, which is why I just cut it out of my notes. But that's why I put that part in, because I was like, I don't want to just write Oblivion ahead of time for when Lucky's scribbling notes like above me, but I think
I did not get that joke. So yeah, definitely no, it did not say it in the first time. But I was gonna mention something else about these fights, but I can't remember it now. So unfortunately, we're just gonna have to keep going. So Pip 5. Flashback to when Nitocris was alive and she carried out her plan to kill the corrupt officials. She speaks how she knew it was wrong and always accepted that, though. She awakens in Cammy's lair, where he asks her why she killed herself after getting revenge, and peels away the lies that Nitocris has been holding in her heart. Cammy had brought Nitocris here to be an underworld guardian, but has forgotten that he already used all 3 of his command seals. Nitocris demands a question from him as well, and Cammy agrees. Nitocris asks about his survival. What would he do if the world is destroyed? Cammy answers, he will continue to live. His current kingly authority is one of immortality. So even if the planet was destroyed, he would continue to live in the present, forgetting the past with no concern for the future.
Also, actually, there's another good point here that relates to the timeline talking. He talks about how even if it goes dark, his people came up in darkness. So presumably his civilization rose while the sun was turned off. The people of Khan lived when there was no sun.
Yeah, but the sun didn't go out until Ort was reactivated, wasn't it?
Yeah, allegedly.
So how long were they battling Ort? Because they said the sun was out for several hundred, for 1,000 years, wasn't it?
It was a while. I don't remember the timing on that.
See, this is why I get confused about, the timing of things here. Because the sun didn't come back until they defeated Ort. And I think the sun went out. Yeah, so that would mean that, well, maybe the Kanan people were fighting Ort for 100,000 years, maybe. Maybe that's why they got, maybe that conflict is why they were able to get super advanced technology.
And it is noted that, he talks about, at some point in here, talks about their original city, their birthplace being, Calakmul, which is at the bottom, but they spread all the way to the same stratum as Chichen Itza. So they were a pretty prosperous civilization before Ort decided to wake up and start bonking things. They spread out pretty far while the Danos were sleeping. So yeah, next week, once I get done with this, I might actually have to go back and
recheck
Like I
this.
said, it should be more clear. The point I'm bringing up is that, as I said, Jaquique was not there for some of these events exactly, so she doesn't have firsthand knowledge, and her ability to perceive some of the same stuff that the Khan might have written down is limited. So there's some more records we're going to get into soon, next week, which should hopefully clear up the exact order of operations.
Yeah, as Robin says here, the only person who has the full info here is Cammy.
But as we said, he is the Beast of Oblivion. He has no past and no future, so he's also not a great source. He's weird about this stuff too. But yeah, he basically says, I'm immortal, I do not require the sun to live, so even if the planet blows up, I don't know, man. Which does make sense, because, like, talking about, like, being immortal, this fight, he is a guy with loads of defenses and guts.
Oh, yeah. Cammy tells Nito that she can stay, as her allies would be fools of the greatest level to try and rescue her. Nito says, bet, and Cammy does, betting his whole kingdom if she is right. Right at that moment, we arrive, yelling for Nitocris. During this bit, Davis is described as an infinity mirror. The more shadows you cast at him, the more he throws back.
Yeah, that's Camazotz telling you about future fights.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that, like, once again, because, like, this is kind of the crux of, like, why Camazotz has been acting the way he has towards us. He sees us and him as the same.
Yes.
He thinks of himself as the last warrior, the last master of humanity, the last one left alive fighting. And so he kind of wanted to know, like, what our deal was like, how summoning servants worked, because his dead spirit summoning, his necromancy, is because he basically has all the souls of Khan inside him. I assume what he does when he summons skeletons is he's basically just returning their souls to their bones. And so, he that's why he assumes his true form. He says one last warrior to another. And now when he's like, okay, what you did was dumb, but I respect you. As a result, I will tell you, because I fought him before, David is an infinity mirror. Because even though Camazotz is like, you're definitely not going to defeat me, I am immortal, I cannot be defeated, but if you do, by the way, here's how David works. There's honestly several people in this Lostbelt who do this to us. They're like, I don't think you're gonna win, but just on the off chance you do, here's some shit you need to know. David got hands.
But let's see here. Pip 6. The battle rages on, because once again, we do another one pip fight with the beast here. And we're not gaining any ground. Nitocris realizes this and reflects upon many things in her life. She then remembers what Jaquique mentions about altars. I don't know if it's ever been actually fully explained, but they say here that altars are servants that have denied their spirit origin. KP gave up her admiration for humans, Benny Emma gave up her wish to remain a child forever, and Aresh gave up her wish to make a paradise. Jaquique tells Nitocris that her background is a poor fit for Mictlan, so she'll have to give up even more. What is that? Only Nitocris knows. She does know, and she makes a choice. She gives up her heart and offers it to the gods for judgment. Camazotz screams at her not to do that, as she has suffered enough, and she can live for herself. But it is to no avail. Nitocris' altar has come to render judgment, and claims this underworld as it was the prize for the bet. Her first law, forgetting the past is forbidden. It is time to face oblivion and move past it.
So this is when we get the boss subtitles, and we get the big final remix of the battle theme.
Jalter is a weird one because Jaquique says they have to do so willingly. Jalter was kind of formed from Giles making a wish on the Holy Grail, so I don't know how willingly that was.
Yeah,
I guess actually, it was.
I did double check it. I wanted to say that, but you moved a pip down, so I wanted to mention my note about talking about the music. But I double checked this, so the context seems to be that the Underworld Guardians specifically undergo alterization through this method, as decided by Camazotz. They have to invert their or reject the core of their Saint Graph.
Oh, okay.
The actual process of like being altered by some outside force is not necessarily that way. For instance, if a servant is darkened through the Holy Grail mud, they can become altered. But that is presumably not a willing process. That is just Angra Mainyu inverted their alignment, for instance. Mm-hmm. And as you said, Jean cannot normally be an alter, like under her normal process to become John Alter. Like, normally, though I would say that it's been like a year since Samurai Remnant came out. I think that's how the Lancer Jean works, is she is actually, like, taking on, like, the burden of hatred, but it is not necessarily inverting her like this process.
Mm-hmm.
But the Jolter we know from FGO, like you said, was Giles wished on a holy grail for he wanted the evil dragon witch Jean that she was like villainized as, but because the actual Jeanne d'Arc is a saint and she is a ruler and thus like is a perfect martyr, she like actually is an incorruptible pure person. Then that, despite the fact that like there should be like an innocent monster version of her, that can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The record of the Throne of Heroes can't be fucked with, so we created a counterfeit instead. So there's a fake who is the version that history sees. I should double check what is. Let me see what Jolter's attribute is. Interesting. It's the game records her hidden attribute as human still. I would have thought maybe Earth because she's technically a myth. But yeah, no. Okay. But yeah, so like I said, I double checked, and at least the wiki phrases it as this is specifically the ritual of alterization that Camazotz did.
Okay.
And yes, Camazotz is very upset that she's gonna alterize herself because he thinks that she's cool that way. Also, I think Nasu wrote in like later interviews that Nitocris reminds Camazotz of his wife when he was king.
I was trying to find a point to put that, but I really do feel like Camazotz really has a thing for Nitocris here, and he's just showing it in some really awkward way.
Yeah, I think Nasu has said that like Nitocris is supposed to remind him of his wife. Like, he actually had a wife, you know, he had loved ones when he was king, but they're all gone now, so like but it makes sense for him never to put a point on it like that because he deliberately denies himself memory.
Yes.
So, of course, he wouldn't realize that, but that is what Nasu said later was, like, in his mind when he wrote this.
No, like, the fact that, you know, because, you know, Camazotz saves Nito at one point, it's constantly, like, trying to get her, obsessed with, like, how she lived and how she does things. Like, no, it's like, I totally got the sense that, like, no, like, Camazotz was into Nito for some odd reason, but I couldn't actually pin it down why, so that makes sense. But, like I said, the remix for this battle was so good. I loved it. I just left it on at some points to be like, yeah. Actually, I probably should have marked this in red because this was your strategy.
Yeah. I used a couple of different servants, but I'm like, all right, I got a beast. He's weak to cavalry class. Well, there's only one thing we can do. We have to also I think when I did the pregame, the wiki notes that like, hey, this guy uses instant death. Consider servants with high death resist. And I was like,
really?
Yeah, his NP can inflict instant death.
So that's what was killed. Okay, twice I had a servant die. I didn't know why. It must have been that. It was always on an NP turn, and it was always weird because I usually would have an envol up on his NP turn. So I was like, what is happening? Yeah, his NP has a decent chance to inflict instant death, but because it's like he does like how would I say, like an in like character screen animation, he doesn't do like a cutaway like a Noble Phantasm. It's hard to tell, but yeah, you may see and hear the instant death effect proc. My strat started with the evening bell tolls thy name, buddy. Mm-hmm. I
gotta get Gramps out and walking. My note was just like, I'm sorry, Cammy, I have 40 rocks. We're gonna do this a long way. I am not sure what the best way to do this without a res would be. Like, my thoughts were Jean for cleansing and healing, Merlin for like healing per turn, and like his team-wide invul maybe like on a skill. You know, there's a couple different ways. I didn't write this down yet, but I was thinking on this later because you just finished the fight today, so we were discussing it. I'm like, yeah, I probably should have reset once or twice and actually tried to experiment a little. There were probably some comps I could have done because I also used though she's AoE, so it's not quite as focused. But I used Archetype Earth a little bit too. I just kind of, like I said, I just kind of jammed rocks because, honestly, I was just vibing out.
Yeah, so I actually enjoyed this fight enough to try it a couple times with a couple of tins. I ended up using one leyline stone. But I did learn that Bargasi ate those guts and shortcut a lot of the fight. Because, like, when you break his first bar, he gets an effect that, when you try to break his second bar, he guts his, like, what was it, 2 times?
Yeah.
I believe.
He gets red guts twice, and then he gets like
Yeah.
a regular guts on his last bar once.
No, it's like 3 times.
Oh, he's like 3. Yeah, he gets a lot of guts. That's right. I forgot. I should have said my other primary note. I used 3 rocks total in this fight, which I think means I'm up at like 5 rocks for this Lostbelt at this stage. Because this guy just had so much guts, and my sub note was, you can interpret that last one however you like. He had a lot of guts. But yeah, the red ones are removable.
Yeah, no, I did, like I said, I ended up using a rock because, again, I was a little experimental and I didn't want to spend too much time. But my main 3 was Tamamo, John, and Castoria. Like,
Full
we weren't going...
strats, no offense.
Yeah, but let's see. Well, that was the fun thing. My Tamamo is level 120, and like I said, 2 of those classes had advantage on them. So even if we weren't doing
true.
MP numbers, we weren't necessarily doing chip damage.
That's true. That's you're using your grails to your best effect.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna check because people are talking about like using regular BB, and I'm like, yeah, she's good, but I remember that my skills are still not super high on her for some reason. What's her mats?
Yeah, and as I mentioned, both Tomo and Castoria have arts boosters. Plus, Castoria has an attack up on for all and stuff.
Yeah.
So
when when she fires her NP, that's attack up.
Yeah. And like I said, since all 3 of them have 3 arts cards, guess what? Like every turn, I was firing 1 to 3 MPs. So it was going. But like I said, the reason why I had to take a rock is
BB skills were not high. It's because BB specifically uses caster gems. Blue caster gems are a premium in this town.
But the reason why it took 1 rock is because I had to squeeze in my Bargus somewhere, who was neutral. She did neutral damage and takes neutral damage. But as you know, she has the eats buff on attack card, and I wanted to see if it would eat the guts. And sure enough, it ate the guts. Shortcutted a lot of the fight.
Also, Bargust has a huge fucking team damage cut.
Yeah.
She is a wall. I didn't use her because of the advantage, but I probably should have thought that. My Bargust is level 100 now, and I think she's 10-10-10.
Yeah, no, mine's 10-10-10 as well. So yeah, no, like, I actually got through that fight without him gutsing once, and I was like, rad. It still cost me a stone, so I am up to 4 stones total myself.
Yeah, like I said, there was I tried a few of the advantages, so that's... I didn't think to use Bargust. Honestly, Gramps did do a lot of work. After a couple of buffs, he is a house. Like, he gets so much NP and Buster up on his guts proc. Of just like, you killed me? No, you didn't.
Honestly, I might have, again, I wish I could just redo fights, because I would have tried to, do some sort of, Buster strat with, maybe Bargust, Koyanskaya, and Merlin.
Yeah, no, that sounds like it'd be a fun one.
So it's again, it's one of those things of I wish I could have kept doing this fight, but I can't.
Hell, you could probably do because, hey, guess what, everybody at home? Scotty has, death immunity on her NP. You could probably do some kind of, quick setup if you can feed her enough NP to keep firing her NP, even though it's an arts card. There's room for a lot of different strats. Like I said, I hope this is a memorial battle later that I can try. All right. Luckily,
it is Carlos says it is a memorial battle. So rad.
Okay,
I think I might actually go and do that one.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do some experimenting then, because I won't have stones. So
it's like I said, this is one of the fights I enjoy that has difficulty, but also makes you want to think about how you want to do the fight. You don't have to just negate a bunch of bullshit. Because I should mention that one of his big mechanics, the one where he basically declares a house of something and throws debuffs around or buffs around, gets completely negated by Needle Alter. He's just no.
Yeah, he has 3 different random skills he can use, not his breakbar phase changes. And those can be very annoying in the early fights. In this fight, anytime he does any one of those, Needle Alter is just floating behind you and it's just no. And then he never does that again after it gets sealed. So it simplifies the fight, but he still keeps a lot of his shit. No, there are some, I think that mechanically, this one is probably the most Sorry. Mechanically, this one's probably the most interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that there are actually several of the later fights after this that I found were just as, interesting. When I list everything out on paper, when I did the pregame, a lot of the future fights sound like bullshit, and I'm not gonna lie to you. Some phases or class combos of the Ort Raid feel very mean. But they have their own interesting strategy with, picking your servants to throw out there. But, there are a lot of these are actually, really interestingly set up. Which one are you thinking of, Robin? That's very bullshit. Is it the stories support only to lock fight? Oh no, this the second Tez batch. Yeah, that one is annoying. Mr. Woo!
Woo!
That's okay. Tez gets better fights. Multiple better fights.
Oh, that's good. Well, we're almost
you're gonna
done.
have fun.
So
yeah, but let's wrap up.
Yep. So Camazotz is badly injured, but Nito doesn't have the strength to maintain our alter form and passes out. Wakachan moves to catch her, but Camazotz, injured as he is still faster. He catches Nitocris and falls with her. As they fall, someone is speaking. They speak of how they cannot call Nitocris foolish anymore. They speak of how they never mourned or regretted anyone's death. Even when men, women, and children threw themselves in the kiln to give them strength, it did not bother them. Funnily enough, though, the deaths of fictional characters made them weep. They wonder what it would have been like to be more like a normal human, and admit that it's good to remember. They finally understand what it means to live past your time. We find Nito at the bottom, no worse for wear with Camazotz and his big bad bats gone. She mentions that her authorization was just temporary, and we don't have the heart.
Sorry, I remember my joke from my comment from earlier, and I'm like, I should add this back in.
Actually, yeah, I probably should have left it back in. Usually, when I write things, if you say something that I say anyway, I usually delete things, but honestly, I feel like I should probably just leave them in.
It's fine. I tried to red code much more aggressively, like thoughts that are like, okay, I went out of my way to look this up or think about this.
Yeah.
I should do a couple more reds.
And yeah, we don't have the heart to tell her that. We wish she hadn't have done that. Gave us a heart attack. Literally.
Yeah, because there's a CG of it even, like, to do this process, she, like, reaches out and gives up her own heart and is like, all right, Anubis, take the wheel.
Yeah, okay, I didn't actually put it in detail, but no, this is actually, like, a thing, because I know this, I know Omega knows this, but in Egyptian mythology, when you die, Anubis weighs your heart against a feather, and if your heart is heavier than the feather, you fucking, get sent to Egypt hell. I don't remember what that is.
Your soul is consumed by Amut, which is a horrible monster that is, like, part lion, part crocodile, part hippopotamus.
Yeah, and from what I understand, what Nitocris did, she basically didn't do any of the preparations to send herself to Anubis. So she basically said, I will not be judged. I will just, I will live my afterlife knowing that I have done wrong and I will continue to eternally suffer for it. So her authorization is her basically denying herself that, like, denying that and basically actually submitting herself for judgment instead of just...
Yeah, I actually talked about this in the Wanted for Nitocris Alter way back, but Nitocris Alter is an alter because she is the Avenger with no vengeance. Like, we don't see a lot of her in the story in this moment, so we don't get a good look at her character, but basically, she is an Avenger because she is part of, like, Nitocris's, like, revenge plot, but because she is the altered form, she no longer feels strongly about the concept of vengeance, which is very weird for an Avenger, like, because we learned this in Shinjuku, like, the thing that keeps Avengers going is hate, and Nitocris Alter doesn't have hate anymore, she just has judgment. She is no longer the divinity of Horus, she is the divinity of Anubis. Like you said, she's switched from her denying being judged to she is judged, and in fact, she is judgment.
Yes.
And she's balling out.
She balling. I'm glad she's permanent. I do want her.
Yeah, we'll have to swing that one as well. Also, the heart represents part of your soul in Egyptian mythology, but in Egypt, they believed in basically like a 5-part soul. So it's, she has to, like, sacrifice herself and, move through, like, giving up part of her soul to switch. But it's I won't say it's no big deal, because, like we said, you have 2 dialogue options how you think about it, but it's definitely like, yeah, I can't tell her right now that I'm like, I also did not want her to do that, but that would be very rude of me to say at this moment, when she totally bailed my ass out.
So, one last note. We go back to Chichen Itza, where Bakub just leaves his cell as there are no Danos left in the city. He continues to go on about how he's the only one that has any idea how to live, and he is clearly the superior one. Apparently, though, he was promised a place in Mexico City, and wings off in that direction.
By the way, very interesting of Iskali and the Osalome to, like, offer him a position when he flips on them. That actually does say a lot about them. But yeah, my original note about this was like, after all that heavy hitting shit, fighting the beast we ran into a beast in the bottom of this Lostbelt, dealt with that old problem. Nitocris, yoinked out her own heart and became an altar, all that stuff. And I'm like, and Vakub is still flapping around. But yeah, no. This kind of like crux is something that was like, I believe, alluded to earlier. Like the Danos said that without the sun, they would just kind of like disperse.
Mm-hmm.
So like none of them are left guarding his cell, so they just like and in fact, I assume that the Danos like eventually just left his door unlocked because he would die, without access to the sun. So he's just like, all right, fuck this shit. I'm going to Mexico City. And that means that next week we're going to start on Section 18, the City of Water. Azultan Kalamakul.
Yeah, so hopefully this, like, honestly, it'll probably be well-timed, because I believe the week after that we'll be starting Valentines. But yes, next week should be the last week of LB7.
So if you are also not done with all of this, I know some of you, as you say, are behind lucky. Some people are working through some stuff.
Yeah.
I think I even talked about this on a stream sometime, but I mentioned in my cuckoo one that I'm like, I know some of you have very particular rolling habits. Some people like will have waited until the Kukulkan banner to like really get into it, because rolling is very specific. So, this is your moment to get in. And like I said, yeah, there's a lot of exposition. The mission clock is just under 420. Sadly, the edit won't make it line up to be 420, but that's about how long it's going. There was so much exposition, and guess what? Exposition's not done. Fighting's definitely not done. Like, so
right.
You got some heavy lifting to go.
Yeah.
So, this will be, plenty more. Like, it is surprising to me, and this is the reason why, like I said earlier, I kind of figured you would go through this pit, but I was like, we definitely want to get to the end of this pit, because this is a big moment in the Lostbelt. Like, if this was a singularity, the story would be over here somehow. Like, this would be the thing. Like, we would have been working towards, defeating Camazotz. This was a pit stop. Merely one of our challenges on our pilgrimage of the underworld.
God, yeah, no, we still gotta deal with Cuckoo, Tez, and fucking Ort.
And, we still have to find the tree.
The tree, yes.
Trees are normally bosses as well. So,
yeah,
like,
a fucking Beast of Humanity was 5th on our to-do list.
Hell, he wasn't even on our, like, truly, if we could have gone through the underworld without fighting him, we would have done that. But yeah, no,
wild.
Yeah, so, like, there's so much more shit. So, yeah, it'll be a fun time next week for sure.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Also, no, yeah, saying he's not a beast of humanity. He is, though. Like, he is the evils of humanity. It's just, like you said, he's not an evil of proper human humanity. That's the thing. But the Khan people were humans, presumably some Homo sapiens or other hominid species that lived. And he is their evil, the evil of oblivion, which I'm guessing in this context is like the like, much like how pity was framed as the sheer cruelty of pitying someone and thinking they need helping. He is oblivion because it is the simple pain of forgetting everything, choosing not to remember and grieve,
Yeah.
Which does sound like a very beast thing. Like that. This is another thing that like a lot of the beasts have been wrapped up in, is like, each one of them kind of exists in a moment where, their relationship to humanity is fucked, that twisted love thing. So, like, him being the last human left, but then being all of the humans at the same time, like, his spirit origin is made up of everybody, is, like, yeah, that's a perfect fit. Like, that's very similar to how, Kiara, for instance, loved humanity, but she only thought of herself as human, so all other human beings were disposable to her, We've talked at length, Kama's plan was to destroy humans by giving each one of them individual love, and thus destroying the concept of love in her infinite space. Which she was going to kick off by sucking us into her infinite space realm of infinity Kamas. Almost got us, too.
Where's my gif?
Yeah. Tiamat just wanted us to go back to being little witty babies again, regressing us to her children. Yeah, I never forget Gaetia, though, and him being the beast of pity of just like, wow, your guys' life sucks. What if I blew you up and started again? Thanks, Gaetia. That really helps me out on an individual level. Thank you. All this power in the world, and you're still like, yes, I'll blow it all up and start again. Oh, gifts take, there it is. It took a second to load. And actually, like, I think this is something I just thought of, but to kind of wrap this up before we do outro and stuff, because like I said, I don't have anything in what's up.
Yeah, there's stuff to talk about, but we don't have to force it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I'm really thinking about is we are planning on setting up on a new game.
Vintage Story, baby.
Yeah, Vintage Story, that's right. Vagrant Story, it's a different game. We've gone through the process of that because they're not on Steam and stuff. Hopefully this weekend we can schedule some time for sure.
Yeah, Aaron says he's renting out the server already, so he just wants us to get in there and maybe figure out what kind of world and biome we want.
Yeah, but I do unfortunately have to edit and post this now, and it's after midnight, so
yeah.
I think Loth went back to bed. He said to ping him as usual, but the boy works, so I don't like to like rouse him up for no reason. We'll catch up. We got plenty of time in. But yeah, my last thought was like, I think it does say a lot about how like this world didn't progress. That like the number is kind of blurred out, but it's like a 1. So I like, and he has similar, stats to Beast 1, like in his class advantage. So it's interesting to me that like Camazotz is the first beast to appear in this Lostbelt in this timeline. And the Danos don't do anything about him. They don't overcome him. We have to overcome him. And so like they are not doing the challenges to progress. They are not overcoming 7 evils to move on. They're stuck at number 1, which is like kind of interesting because again, we assert that we are supposed to overcome 7 beasts, even though Nas has cheated and added some extra ones because we've gotten some 0.5s here and there and everywhere.
Nasu likes the cheating with like, oh yes, there are 2 halves of one beast, or they're immature beasts.
Yeah.
Trying to become an artificial beast. It's like, God.
I mean, sometimes that works because, like, I do love that line from Doman where Doman's like, ah, yes, I'll become a beast. I'll be really cool and fucked up and evil. And then, like, we get to the end and, like, I think it's Seimei who calls him out. He's like, you can't become a beast, dumbass. You don't love humans, you stupid idiot moron. And Doman is like, what? Huh?
Doman just explodes.
He exploded in a puff of logic. Well, no, because, like, the idea is that, like, beasts like Grands and, like, other things are supposed to be a caliber of being. The thing we all forgot when this shit started is, like somebody just said in our Patreon chat, the rules are meant to be broken. Nasu established this rule where there's supposed to be 7 super powerful guys who are supposed to, like, each one of them take 7 grand servants to take on. But he was like, but that's a type of guy that I like, so what if I just made more guys? Like just keep tackling them on. And it comes up with excuses for how it doesn't break the rule of 7 somehow. Because we like 7s. The number 7 will come up again in this very Lostbelt, which is the 7th of 7 Lostbelts. So, it's one of those things where I think it made sense to Nasu at the time, but then he was like, nah, it's too cool. And I don't actually know if we're gonna go in the proper order because like we've stopped counting correctly, but we did 1, we did 2. Technically, we did 2 before 1, but they appeared in that order. Then we skipped straight to 4, and then we did 3 twice, and then we did somebody trying to become 4 again, but they didn't become 4. And I'm pretty sure that Draco is supposed to be 1 half of 6, so I don't know if that means we defeated half of 6 or did we defeat both halves of 6, and then. Nobody has ever claimed to be Beast 5?
Honestly, we never actually... I don't actually think we defeated Draco, which is part of the weird thing. It's all like, we just have a beast now.
Yeah, that will... Presumably this year, we're going to unpack that one in Lil of Harlot. So, like, we have to... There's no way we can make Beast Draco, Mother Harlot, Queen Draco summonable without getting a little bit of explanation of the lore. So... But I do think that that's correct, that she is technically only 1 half of 6, because 6 is supposed to be the beast of Revelation. So she is Mother Harlot who rides on the back of the beast, and then there's also the dragon part of it, which is like a thing from like the prototype universe that Arthur's trying to fight. And I don't know if we'll get to that in Lil of Harlot as well. I gotta double check where it is, but like other people double check me on this. Olga says she's supposed to be Beast 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that was part of the bomb of like how crazy strong she is. Is like she shows up and declares that she's number 7, and we're like, what? Huh?
Yeah. She says like she's the beast of the end or something.
Yeah. So people are checking me. So like, but Axe is correct that we don't mention that part of it. Now that could just be that she forgot. Oh, she does say it at the start too. Yes. I assume that means that she doesn't mention it again because of her Jamnesia. Yes, they did say they with a J. That was intentional.
I'm about to say, it's like, wait.
But, like, it is definitely a thing of, like, so, there's 6s, and like I said, 5s are weird. And people are asking, like, I think Aresh is technically not a numbered beast because she is supposed to be a servant-verse beast. Like, she's from a different dimension. And I think it's also, like, that's not in her class, but because she's an Avenger for reasons. But I also think that Space Ashtarte, is supposed to be a, like, evil of humanity caliber enemy. Like, there's a lot of evils going on because we accidentally keep jumping into other timelines. So, it's one of those weird things. It's the same as, like, the like, whatchamacallit, the Grands, right? Like, there's supposed to be 7 Grand Servants, which Olga Mary says that she beat up, but I'm not sure I believe her. I don't know if things happened like how she thought they happened. Especially because I do not mind saying that, like, at certain points, I don't know if he's gaslighting or what, but Koto Mine seems to understand the plan much better than you, Olga, does, even when she's starting to get her memories back. So, like, he can't interfere with her, like, direct desires. Like, he can't go against her orders. But there are times when he is very clearly trying to lead her to certain actions or conclusions, right?
Right.
So, like, there's a lot of stuff going on with her that I'm not going to get into, like, the conclusion of the Lostbelt either, but, like, there's a lot going on with her, as well. So, like, I don't know about the Grands. But then we already have other grand stuff because, Qin Shi Huang made himself a grand quality Saint Graph and stuff like that. Like, the numbers don't add up. And somebody, Robin said a couple minutes ago that I sound crazy, and I'm like, yeah, there are times when I do feel like when I start to do the fucking Pepe Sylvia thing about Naziverse stuff, I feel a little crazy. But yeah, we'll unpack a few more of these things, but as I said, like, I don't feel it's a spoiler to say, like, when Lucky brought up, like, yeah, I don't know if Ort is supposed to be the ultimate one of Mercury or the Ort Cloud, and I'm like, guess what? This Lostbelt story doesn't help, does not clear that up. There are just times when it's open-ended. Sorry, I paused there for a second because I think I hear a cat yowling in the hallway. That probably means they want feeding for overnight. They're always hungry, those cats. All right. Is there anything else in What's Up related stuff you wanted to bring up, Lucky?
I want to make a taco franchise.
It's true. We're working on that.
Mm-hmm. But other than that, not really, no.
Just to put a little bit of context on that, Lucky's talking about Plate Up. Plate Up is very fun.
It is fun.
We're getting better at it. Like, so we've franchised a couple of things, and specifically Lucky wants to work on a taco franchise because we had a lot of fun with that. But all right. Sorry, I'm stretching my bones.
Stretch them bones. You need them.
If that is everything, though, then I will wind us down.
Yeah.
Big show next week. We're going to wrap up Lostbelt 7, and like I said, we'll probably tuck in the Valentines pregame in before that as well, just because they say early February, and I'm inclined to believe them.
Yep.
So, here we are. That probably means in a couple weeks, keep your eyes peeled for Wanted Johanna. That'll be fun.
That will be fun.
I did a fan survey on Johanna before they, like, a couple years, I think, before they premiered her, so I've already done some research that way. We get to talk about anti-popes. Anyway, it's time to wrap up the show. If you've watched this far, please like this video. If you like it, so click like. Leave your comments down below. Join our lovely Discord. Our Discord is open to public. There's an area only accessible to patrons, but mostly everywhere else is all, like, public access or opt-in. So you can join that with the link in the description and on our channel page. Make sure you're subscribed for more Let's Take FGO, more live streams, and more other videos like Wanteds. Sorry, it's after midnight when we're doing this for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Ring the bell. I think that's a thing people still say. There is, it's cool to know when we're posting videos. You can join our channel memberships, like I mentioned earlier, and you can support us on Patreon, like these lovely patrons, such as Adam DeHart, Blacklist OG, Call Me Zed, Carlos, Dragon, JDV9000, Crystarlight, Legendary Boss Hunter, Rise of Kenshi, Rogue Robin, Charvor, Some Guy Named Bob, and Varian the Crow. Thank you very much for your support, patrons.
Thank you.
Learn more about us at patreon.com/Studio Omega YT. Get episodes early in audio format and other stuff at higher levels. And that's about it. Hope everybody has happy, fun space times for next week.
Happy, fun space times.
Well, good night, everybody.
Good night.